Story 1. Husband abandoned me to attend his sister's lavish wedding while I was 9 months pregnant. I ruined my SAL's relationship and exposed her lies. I'm 35 F. I've been married to my husband, Andrew, 39, for the last 7 years. We have a 5-year-old daughter, and I'm currently 7 months pregnant. The primary reason why I'm here is because I need someone to hear me out, and what better than anonymity? My husband has always been close to his family, which I didn't find objectionable during our dating phase. His family was sweet to me whenever we met, but soon after our marriage, I realized that he was really close to his mother and sister, like they three have a gang kind of friendship. While this did not impact our relationship as a married couple, I just used to roll my eyes at their ganging up, nod at me, and moved on. In any social gatherings or parties, they usually sit together and criticize others. Initially, they tried to involve me in their fun activity, but I'm not that kind of a small talk person, so I stayed out of it. However, they didn't bother me, so I, too, didn't bother them. While my mother-in-law, Amael, and sister-in-law, Sael, were not that warm and friendly with me. They used to stay away from my lane. I, too, tried to avoid them as much as possible. I didn't enjoy mocking people on their backs and hugging them when in front. Anyway, after I conceived my first child, I stopped visiting my in-laws' house. Firstly, I was looking for a reason to cut them off. Second, my Amael and Sael were toxic. My husband was kind and gentle, but God knows what happened to him when he met his mother and sister. He would just transform into a different being. Until my husband was civil with me and at home, I didn't care what he did for those 2 to 3 hours he met his family on weekends. I gave him that space. When my daughter, Sarah, was 3, my in-laws started poisoning her ear, saying, "Mama is a bad woman." But my daughter fought back, cried, and said, "Mama is good." She then came home and told me what had happened. My husband laughed at the situation, saying, "They would have just teased the little girl." But I knew the real intention behind it. Since then, I have never left my daughter alone with those evil women. Things started going south last year when my SIL began dating a wealthy businessman from Scotland. It is understandable that she was over the moon to have found such a man falling for her. But why on earth was my husband so excited about that dig? It really kept me wondering. To give a little background about my in-laws. My father-in-law, FIL, retired years ago and lived in his ancestral farmhouse by the countryside. I've met him only a handful number of times, and he's a no-nonsense person, unlike others. Probably that's the reason he had moved out to seek peace. My MIL and SIL are jobless and surviving on the rent of one of FIL's properties and allowance from him. My husband also pays his mother a part of his salary as an allowance. I have always been self-dependent, so I don't mind Andrew giving some grants to his mother. Coming back to the main point. Ever since my SIL started dating that rich man, her attitude changed completely for the worse. She considers herself to be a princess or so. She would often flash those expensive gifts which she got from her boyfriend at the family gathering or any social event. My SIL left no opportunity to show off to everyone how rich her boyfriend was. The funny part is my MIL also had her feet floating. She would giggle with SIL like they were both teenagers. Their behavior got on my nerves, and my annoyance was clear on my face. It's not that I'm jealous or so. Why would I be? The thing is, since my MIL and SIL were surviving on a tiny budget, they never crossed their line because they barely had anything to show off or look down upon me. However, with her new profound love, they both subtly tried to demean me and accused me of being jealous of them. Of course, they didn't say this to my face, but I got the hint from their body language, and some of the relatives also confirmed the same. Soon after this, I got pregnant with my second child, and thank God, it saved me from visiting their place. Andrew would insist that I let Sarah spend time with them alone, but Sarah wouldn't budge. She is 5, yet she doesn't want to be with them. I know some of you would blame me for turning my daughter against my in-laws. Let me tell you, children have better senses than adults. They can differentiate between love and fakeness. My first pregnancy was difficult. I was put on bed rest, but my in-laws never visited to check on me. My second one is comparatively easier, but they visit me often, no, not to check on me, but to show off their new jewelry collection, a trendy dress, or a bag worth thousands of dollars. My SIL would just go gaga over her boyfriend's richness and how they are planning for a grand wedding in Scotland and so on. I just nodded with a plastered smile on my face and sighed under my breath. Good for you. A week ago, my MIL and SIL showed up out of the blue. They started praising my cooking. SIL said that she loved the apple pie and bacon donuts I made. Rather than happy, I got suspicious of their gesture. I asked them why they suddenly remembered the dessert I had served them probably years ago. They were taken aback that, instead of thanking them for their kind words, I directly jumped to the point. SIL said that she had been craving an apple pie for a long time and none of the restaurants were able to match the taste I baked, so they wanted me to prepare those for her. I thanked them and told them I wasn't keeping well, and baking would take additional effort which I couldn't manage with my pregnancy and a toddler. They were not ready to take no for an answer and still insisted that I bake it for her. I could not push back further and said I would try to bake it whenever I felt okay. My SIL hugged me, the first time after my wedding, and said she wanted it on Sunday. I didn't say anything further or notice why she asked me to have it on Sunday. To be honest, I didn't intend to make it at all. I said I'd try just to dodge the bullet at that moment. As the week progressed, I was so exhausted with my pregnancy and Sarah that I forgot about the whole stuff. On a Friday night during dinner, Andrew told me that he would be busy for the weekend as SIL's boyfriend and his family were visiting them for dinner that Sunday. I was shocked. At that moment, everything made sense to me. That sudden praise, request for apple pie and bacon donuts, and why did she want it on Sunday? Well, I know I baked the best apple pie one would have. I mean, I'm truly good at it, but this doesn't mean I would give in to their trap. I informed Andrew about his mother and sister's visit and the request for dessert. Andrew said that his SIL's boyfriend and his Scottish family have a sweet tooth, and they have heard a lot about American apple pie and wanted to taste the authentic one. Andrew almost blurted out how his SIL had boasted about herself that she could bake the best of this dessert and promised to serve his family during the family dinner. I was a guest. I told Andrew that I was not going to take up this hard work in this condition when someone else was going to take the credit for it. And on top of that, I was not even invited to the dinner. He said I was in my 7th month, and his mother thought I would be uncomfortable in front of the guests, so they skipped inviting me. Even if I believe her intention to be genuine, which is not, why didn't they tell me about the dinner when they visited me asking for dessert? Andrew just shrugged his shoulder and said he didn't know. Andrew went to pick up his father on Saturday and said he would return home on Sunday night after dinner. Of course, I wanted to make a big deal out of it and fight with Andrew, but I chose my mental peace knowing that whatever I did would not stop him from attending that function. On Sunday, I deliberately switched off my phone and locked myself in my room with Sarah. I guess my MIL and SIL tried to contact me on my cell phone, and when it was not reachable, they sent a voicemail on the landline. I ignored the call on my landline as well. Although I was not at peace knowing they would curse me for backing out, I felt satisfied that I didn't give in to their demands. On Monday morning, when I switched on my phone, I saw my phone flooded with missed calls and voicemails. It started with pleadings and ended with curses. As soon as they got the notification that their messages were delivered to me, I got a call from my MIL. Oh God, that was the longest monologue I ever heard. I always knew her true colors, but that day I got to know her bitter tongue. She accused me of ruining their dinner party and called me a witch. Apparently, they thought I would get the dessert, so they didn't prepare or order any dessert because my SIL wanted to impress her would-be in-laws by posing my food as hers. So in the end, the sweet-toothed Scots had to leave the dinner table without any dessert and a sense of dissatisfaction. And guess what? I get the blame for their disappointment. While my MEL showered me with curses, I could only imagine their funny faces on the dinner table. I was wondering if it wasn't a big deal, they could have just ordered something from outside. I know my SIL boasted of her culinary skills, but restaurant-made stuff could have at least saved them from the embarrassment. Anyway, that's not my problem. I told the same and hung up the call. Besides all those messages from MIL and SIL, there was one late-night message from Andrew that he wouldn't return that night. He would be back on Monday after work. When Andrew returned home in the evening, he was silent but not angry. I tried to tell him what his mother had told me, but he cut me off, saying he didn't want to be dragged into the situation. He said I should be lucky he was not scolding me for embarrassing his family last night, so I should not expect him to take my stand against whatever his mother and sister said to me. I lost my mind at this. I didn't take his mother and sister's words seriously because I knew they were evil. But what the heck was Andrew up to? I mean, first of all, he should have taken a stand when I was cut off from the family dinner. How on earth am I responsible for ruining an event to which I was not invited? It's been since then, and we are not on talking terms. Neither he nor I have made any effort to talk it out. Although in my mind, I feel I'm so done with them, deep down I sabotaged myself thinking, did I really ruin their reputation by turning down their demand? I don't know, guys. Update 1. Hi all. It's been 2 months since my original post. I'm in my 40th week, just almost about to pop. So, in the aftermath of my last post, I realized that I have been way too tolerant of my husband. After 2 weeks of that incident, I had to go for my scan where Andrew accompanied me. On our way home, I tried to discuss the situation, but he asked me to move on and focus on my health. He was also normal by then. I took it positively that he did not hold on to any grudge, but somewhere I felt his behavior to be secretive. Anyway, just today morning, I woke up to see Andrew packing his bags. When I opened my eyes, he was trying to stuff his wedding suit into one of his bags. I shivered at that sight and almost yelled at him, asking him the reason for the packing. He said that he was going to Scotland for his sister's wedding. I was lost for words. I mean, when? How did this happen? I bombarded him with a question. When the date got fixed, why was I not informed? And on top of that, how could you leave me on my due date? Yes, I'm due tomorrow. He tried his best to dodge the questions or answer them in a single syllable. I told him that he just could not avoid me like that. I was angry, hurt, sad, shocked, all at the same time. Could you imagine your husband leaving you alone with a toddler during your due date? I can't express more. I won't lie that I was calm. I held his shoulder and nudged him for an answer. He said that it was planned last moment and he had to go. His sister's would-be in-laws insisted on this particular date, and he couldn't do anything about it. Of course, he can do everything about it. He can skip the wedding. While we were in the middle of this, our doorbell rang. Andrew rushed to answer it as if he was expecting someone. That was his mother. She barged into the house, shouting at Andrew for running late. She dragged his bags outside the room, saying that he didn't need to pack the remaining stuff because whatever was short, they could buy from Scotland. The sentence came as if to mock me. I wanted to smack her head at that moment. When she smirked at me, I realized that it was too late to stop Andrew or fight over it. So I went back to my room, threw the remaining of Andrew's packed bag in the living room, and locked the door. I heard my ML cursing me at the top of her voice. They left shortly after that. I then realized why Andrew had acted so secretively for the last month, and I was thinking that he was just torn between me and his family. I was in deep pain, both mentally and physically, crying out my heart aloud. I realized that the chaos woke up my daughter, Sarah. She came to me, hugged me, and said that I would be fine and I should be excited because we would soon have a baby in the house. Her innocent words melted my heart, and I wrapped her in my arms. We spent the day playing in bed. I tried to keep myself distracted, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get over the fact that Andrew abandoned me in this condition. I am breaking down every now and then. I have called up my sister to stay with me tomorrow because I don't know when my labor will kickstart. I had to make this update today because what happened today is choking me. Wish me a healthy and peaceful labor. Update 2. Hello everybody. I know it has been months since I updated. First of all, I'm blessed with a baby boy. Thank you so much. Okay, so that day, soon after my post, I logged into my Facebook and saw Andrew happily posting pictures of himself and his family enjoying in Scotland. I just couldn't hold back myself and broke down. It was past midnight, and Sarah was fast asleep. I went to the washroom and let my emotions flow. I had been holding it throughout the day in front of Sarah. I cried for almost an hour. I was on the verge of fainting when I realized that my water had broken. I somehow crawled to the living room to call the ambulance. I have a very hazy and vague memory of what happened in between. The next I remember was being in the ambulance carried to the hospital. When my condition stabilized, I cried out Sarah's name. The nurse said they found Sarah crying beside me while I was passing in and out of consciousness. As the house was empty, they brought Sarah along with them. The poor soul was sitting in the front with the attendant. I was relieved that my daughter was safe. Within a few minutes of arriving at the hospital, I gave birth to my baby boy. The nurse said they tried to contact my husband, but his number was unavailable. My sister arrived in the wee hours of the morning. She lived 120 miles away. When my sister got to know about my situation, she rebuked me for not calling her prior. I thought I had a day. She also asked me to get rid of Andrew ASAP. Since I was discovered in such a situation by the hospital officials, they informed the police regarding the same. The police asked me if my husband abused or assaulted me because they perceived that I was abandoned in that condition. I told them the truth. It was not physically assaulted but mentally and emotionally, yes. Andrew was charged with negligence charges. His negligence indeed threatened 3 lives. Sarah, my unborn baby, and mine. It gives me chills that what might have gone wrong that day if I couldn't call the ambulance at the right time. I feel so grateful to the Lord that He kept us safe. I was discharged 2 days later. By then, my parents had also arrived. They lived 2,500 miles away. My parents were adamant about suing Andrew and his family for mentally torturing me during my pregnancy. They packed up my stuff from the house while I was still in the hospital. I, too, didn't want to stay with Andrew anymore. Who would want such a kind of husband? After being discharged, I went to my hometown with my parents and sister. It was almost a week after my delivery that Andrew returned home. It appeared from his Facebook activity that they extended their stay after the wedding to explore Scotland. It amazed me to see how stress-free he enjoyed his vacation, unbothered that his wife was due during that period. He didn't even call or text me during that period. I also didn't disturb him because I had planned to ruin him and his family. A week later, when he returned, he found an empty house, a legal notice of divorce, and charges the police pressed him with. He had a week to appear before the police to give his statement. He panicked, called me 100 times. I won't lie, I enjoyed the sight of his endless calls and pleading voicemails. Soon, I got calls from my MIL and voicemails begging me to talk to them. I told my parents about it. They called Andrew and asked him to visit our house. He flew down to our house on that very day with his mother. My parents humiliated both of them for torturing me and threatened to ruin both of their lives. Andrew insisted on talking to me in private. He literally begged me for forgiveness and reconciliation. He started emotionally trapping me by saying that our child needs a father, too, and I shouldn't deprive them of happiness. I asked him the gender of our second child, and he was dead silent. My boy was a week old, but his father didn't know he was born. Do you think a child needs that kind of a father? His mother, too, pleaded for forgiveness, saying that these court cases would damage their reputation in front of their new relatives, SIL's in-laws. But I didn't care. I just laughed at her reason. Ultimately, when they were asked to leave, they insisted on seeing the newborn, but I didn't want their eyes and shadow on my children. My father chased them out of the house. Meanwhile, I contacted my SIL's new husband on social media. I introduced myself as we had never met. To my surprise, he was also suspicious of Andrew and his family when they kept me aside from the family dinner and the wedding on the excuse of pregnancy. I told him about everything which happened to me. He said he was surprised to find Andrew chilling out during the wedding while leaving his wife in labor. Although it was too late, he asked me about my SIL, and I told the truth about her nature and also about that apple pie thing. He said their behavior was indeed shady, but now it made sense to him. Apparently, my SIL had posed herself to be a chef, and my MIL boosted her lies, saying that they owned a chain of restaurants in the countryside. I revealed the truth that his new lovely wife has never even boiled an egg. He called her a gold digger and assured me he would keep our conversation discreet. I told him I wasn't bothered even if he revealed that I had exposed all the truth. In fact, I wanted them to know that it was me. It's been 10 months since that D-Day. My divorce got finalized last week. I got sufficient alimony on the grounds of maternal and child negligence, mental torture during pregnancy, and safety hazards. I got the share in the house too because I had also contributed when we bought that house. I have given the ultimatum of 3 months for Andrew to pay my house share, or else it will be put up for auction. Plus, I got child support too. The interesting part is, soon after my conversation with SIL's husband, I got texts from my SIL accusing me of ruining her life. Later, I got to know that her husband had got an investigation done on my in-laws' family background. The truth was revealed that they were not wealthy as they had posed themselves to be, and my SIL has also lied about many things, including her job. As per the information from some of the gossip-monger relatives, the Scotts have sent back Andrew's sister and have filed for a divorce. They have accused her of money laundering. Apparently, she was stealing money from her in-laws' locker and sending it to her mother. Her husband labeled her a gold digger because she had already sucked thousands of dollars from him while they were dating. I enjoy this gossip with a sip of wine. I wish the trio husband, MIL, SIL a happy gossip life in poverty. Now on to the next story. Story 2. I found out my husband had been cheating, and she gave birth to his twin boys. Then, they both died in a car crash, and everyone is trying to force me to raise the babies. My husband, 49M, of 23 years, had an affair with a 20-year-old girl since 2020. I, 45F, found out this year when his affair partner gave birth to twin boys in March. Obviously, we were going to divorce. We've been hashing things out since it's been a lengthy process due to some properties in common, and we needed to get an accountant since he used the shared account for his affair. Finally, things seemed to be getting close to the end when both my husband and the woman he cheated with were killed in a car crash. By some miracle, the twin babies were not harmed in the crash. Now they are orphaned, and neither set of grandparents can take them in permanently. My husband's parents are both in assisted living. He has no siblings, and the only aunt that could take them refuses. She's been child-free her whole life. On the woman's side, I'm not sure the details in full, but her parents are also not able to be involved long-term, and the one sister she has lives overseas. Since we were still married and he had not updated his will, all his assets are set to pass to me and our 2 children. I'm not callous enough to leave those babies with nothing, so I agreed to let whoever is their legal guardian have the remaining balance in the shared account. About $25,000 is in savings. The issue is no one wants to take them in. Now my in-laws are pressuring me to take them in and raise them. The issue is I don't want to at all. I wouldn't love them and I don't want to be the evil stepmother, but I know a big part of me will always have a level of resentment towards them. I will probably favor my own children. It's not their fault, but I truly loved my husband, and I thought we were happy before I found out about the affair. We have 2 daughters, 14 and 16. Obviously, we had disagreements but never insulted each other before. Then, I found out about the affair, and he began calling me names and blaming me for his cheating. He became abusive and even tried to kick me out of the house, my childhood home. That is not shared property for the record. I'm also raising teenagers alone now. I don't have the energy to raise babies anymore. My daughters hate their baby brothers. I tried to get them to spend time with their dad as we were divorcing, but they refused. Since this all was found out because of the babies, there wasn't really a way to sugarcoat the situation, and they are also too old to really get away with it. Most of my friends agree it's not my place to care for those children, but my in-laws, the affair woman's parents, and my mother want me to raise them. I know my mom is just having grandkids fever, but it hurts to not have her support. I have to make a decision by next week, or the boys will be going into foster care. At the moment, they are temporarily placed with their maternal grandparents. I feel horrible, but I am very sure I can't take them in. Wibda if I refuse to take them in? Update 1. Hey, everyone. This blew up far more than I thought, and I appreciate the well wishes for my girls, the boys, and myself. Also, for the amount of lovely people offering to see about giving the twins a good home. I might not be their mother, but it does touch me and makes me glad there's good people out there. After thinking carefully and speaking to my lawyer, reading responses, doing research, etc., I plan to speak to the grandparents tomorrow and refuse to take legal guardianship of the boys. I will let them know of the usernames of people that offered meeting for private adoptions or fostering, but my daughters are my priority. It'll be up to the twins' grandparents to decide if they'll proceed with adoption, keep them, or turn them to the state. I wish I had the mental capacity to be the person to do this, but I have two girls that are going through a lot, and they need my full attention. I'll also be talking to the lawyers to figure out if the boys have any inheritance claim. If they do, I'll separate it and leave it to the lawyers to do what they need to do for them to have access when it's best. If they don't, I'll find a way to ensure they have access to the $25,000 I was going to give them since the beginning. I won't do more, however. My moral compass might be biased, but I don't believe I'm obligated, neither morally nor legally, to do more than what the word of law says. I can't help everyone, and I shouldn't have to. I have two girls that lost their father, two girls that need therapy, two girls just about to get to college. They've gone through enough without seeing their mother favor the children of their father's mistress. Update 2. Hey, everyone. So, as I said 2 nights ago, I went yesterday to speak to the twins' grandparents. I explained my position and refused to take guardianship of the boys. My mother-in-law almost slapped me when I said that, but thankfully, this was all done in a public place, and my father-in-law stopped her. The maternal grandparents kept pleading for me to raise them since they didn't want to lose them. I kept saying no, and when they called me selfish, I lost it. I told them to their face the only selfish people in this mess were them and their son and daughter. Their son, my husband, for cheating and then making the divorce hell on me and my girls. Their daughter because she was a whore, I used another word, that went after a married man twice her age. I told them if I heard from them again, I would request a cease and desist. I also informed my parents-in-law that they won't have access to my daughters for the foreseeable future. I'll explain why in a bit. We were at a restaurant, but I didn't stay for the meal. I also sent an email to my lawyer so he can ensure CPS and any agency involved in the welfare of the twins is aware I'm not going to be their guardian or be involved. Then, I sent an email to my in-laws with all the usernames and websites from people here in Reddit that have offered to do interviews for the twins' adoption. I won't be involved beyond this point, so please, as lovely as it is, I can't help you if you are interested in the boys. Yesterday was the end of my involvement. As for why my in-laws won't see my girls, I spoke to my daughters and decided to find out more about their thoughts before I went to meet the grandparents. My youngest refused to speak to me, which I found very out of place for her. My eldest then asked for just the two of us to speak. That's when she explained that my in-laws had been going on about how the girls need to get ready to go to public school instead of their private school and to get jobs right out of high school since I will have to provide the twins with private schooling and college money. Apparently, they also were told to start moving their stuff to share a room. My girls have separate rooms, since the twins need more space. This was not known to me, mostly because that would never happen. Apparently, my in-laws have been basically bullying the girls because the babies take priority. Yeah, that's not happening. I told the girls that their grandparents have no say in where they go to school, their college funds, or how the rooms are set in our house. Also, that I do agree they could use a part-time job during college and maybe a scholarship, but their tuition will be paid. I told them not to blame the babies for the stupidity of the adults. They told me they understand, but they still don't want to interact with their brothers for now. That for now part gives me hope they'll get through things. For now, we're going to do some changes in the house. The girls and I both don't like there's still an office space that my husband used. We're going to make it into a gaming room for all of us. I plan to take down some pictures that have my husband in them and put them in albums for the girls. We just want to make the house more ours. As for people wondering why my girls wanted nothing to do with their father, my daughters were the ones that discovered the affair and told me when my husband took them to meet the twins at the hospital. He had asked them to keep it a secret, but my girls told me. After that, my husband began treating them horribly too. He burnt all bridges with the girls. Update 3. Since there's some people who keep harassing me in PMs, I spoke to a lawyer on Monday. The boys have no inheritance claim until a DNA test is done. After that, their only claim is against my in-laws. The shared account is not considered my husband's individual property, so it's mine, same with the lake house. Since he had a personal savings account and a life insurance which went to his parents, that will be the only thing the boys could claim. Obviously, this can be changed if it goes to trial, but the lawyer told me with how little my husband left my girls and I there's very little chance a judge will demand our assets. The lawyer also recommended me to completely end the idea of sharing any money with the boys. That could be used against me to claim I'm taking fiscal responsibility for them and should be considered to be their guardian. I'm dividing the money from the shared account for my daughter's college tuitions. I'm still unsure if I'll sell the lake house or not, but neither the girls nor I are attached to it now. Please leave me alone about the boys' inheritance. Sad as it is, my husband messed everything up for his children. I'm not responsible for them, nor do I have to sacrifice my assets to set them up for a better life. Update 4. There's some good news and some annoying news. The good news is the boys were safely retrieved by CPS from their maternal grandparents and will be placed in foster care until a permanent arrangement is made. I found out when it happened since their grandparents and my mother came to scream at me at work. In all honesty, I'm glad this happened at work and not at home. It's made me consider moving since I don't want my daughters exposed to any of this. An annoyance I had very soon after was getting a call about my inquiries into fostering and adopting. Apparently, my information was sent to CPS as someone interested in fostering the twins and eventually adopting. I immediately explained the situation between the grandparents and me, and the operator was speechless. At first, she apologized for the situation and told me she would make sure I wasn't bothered about the process. I also got served this morning. My in-laws are suing for grandparents' rights. They are also suing for custody. Apparently, they are planning to leave their assisted living, which they really shouldn't, to buy a house that allows kids to get the twins back and now also want custody of my daughters. My personal lawyer immediately gave me some instructions, I won't share, to safeguard myself and my daughters from some risks during a possible custody battle. My lawyer and I both suspect my in-laws want the girls to partify them as caretakers for the twins since my in-laws have mobility limitations. It will be a cold day in hell before that happens. I don't see CPS placing the boys with them to begin with. Not all is bad news. I'm starting therapy next week, and my eldest daughter is once again speaking about the colleges she wants to go to. We still haven't really talked about their father or have them agree to visit his grave. I myself haven't gone there, and I'm trying really hard to get used to not calling him my husband anymore. I had nothing to do with the funeral plans aside from paying bills, and from what I heard, his parents had the epitaph devoted and beloved husband, father, and son written on it. I find it a joke. I know it's bad to hold to so much anger and resent, but as soon as I have time, I plan to change his tombstone to remove husband and father. It might sound petty, but I refuse to speak well of a cheater and abuser just because he's dead. My daughters deserved better, and so did I. And for anyone complaining about me changing the tombstone, I paid for everything at the end, so stick your complaints you know where. I don't think I'll post another update until the whole mess with the grandparents' rights lawsuit is resolved. So to the kind people that have sent support to me and my daughters, thank you so much. Maybe I'll have good news in the future, but for now, I'm going back to my old Reddit account. Update 5. Hey everyone. Some people have been asking me for updates, and to be sincere, I had nothing until today. To start things, cousins from my ex-husband's side of the family took the boys in. I know them. They are lovely, and I know they'll give the twins a great life. The new parents, calling them Matt and Kim, talk to my daughters and let them know if they ever want to reach out to their half-brothers, they just have to call. Otherwise, they can just see them as distant cousins. My girls thanked them but insisted they don't really want a sibling relationship at this time, but that maybe as cousins, it will be okay. I did offer them the money from the shared account since they are family, and they said not to worry since they don't need it. Kim even insisted I use that money for a vacation for my girls and I. Apparently, I look like the living dead. They also set very strict lines with my in-laws and the parents of my ex's affair partner. They can see the boys, but they won't be seen as grandparents. This apparently caused a big fight with the AP's parents. Matt and Kim then cut them off. Again, threats of suing for grandparents' rights were thrown around, but it went nowhere. That's how I found out why the AP's parents couldn't take the boys permanently. The father is a convicted felon in an abuse case. I won't share the details out of respect, but if what Matt and Kim told me is true, I'm glad the boys won't grow up with that man as an example. The only reason his wife had tempted guardianship was because of the sudden death of the parents and the process to find a relative to raise the boys. She would have had to live away from her husband to allow permanent custody, and she wasn't willing to do so. My ex-in-laws did figure threats were not going to work, so they agreed to be great uncles instead. Good for them, I guess. They now want me to let them live with me and the girls since they left assisted living recently, and now the place they were in doesn't have an opening. This place has a long wait list, and the only reason they got in originally was because my ex and I offered to pay 5 years in full. They still had 2 full years paid left, and I was going to pay for them. After everything they put my daughters and me through, I rather burn money in a grill than spend it on them. I know they want my girls and I to be their caretakers. I won't even consider it. My daughters have their own paths to follow, and in all honesty, I want to consider meeting someone new. I know it sounds like I'm moving on too quick, but I've been working to move on since I found out about the affair. I don't think my ex deserves me to go through a mourning period. I already mourned our relationship. At least that's what my eldest daughter said. Funny enough, she's been encouraging me to go out and meet someone. We still have that custody lawsuit my ex-in-laws going and a few other issues that I will update when I have more. But I wanted to at least let everyone know the boys are safe and together. Update 6. New update. So we had mediation this week for the grandparents' rights lawsuit. This is just to avoid taking space on a judge's already heavily stressed docket, though I knew it would go nowhere. My ex-in-law's demands were for the girls to either be in their custody or spend weekdays with them and weekends with me. Even the court-appointed mediator told them they were not being realistic with their expectations. My lawyer and I only had one offer and were not willing to negotiate. They will see my daughters only if they want and when they want. The mediator also thought we were being unfair. That's when a detail came out. My ex-in-laws had claimed my daughters are 6 and 4, a whole decade younger than they really are, to the mediator. I provided him with birth certificates as well as showed him a picture of the girls. The mediator shook his head and said he couldn't help in this case. My daughters are too old for grandparents' rights to even be considered. He will send a recommendation for the grandparents' rights lawsuit to be dropped, but the custody one will still be going since neither my ex-in-laws nor I agree on custody. I refuse to give them any single bit of legal control of my daughters. They are now also demanding I make them their legal guardian if I happen to pass away. Nope. On some strange news, I met the sister of my ex's affair partner. She brought some items to my house that she knew had to be stolen from me. These are things that were supposed to be in storage. My wedding dress, an old jewelry box that had a picture of my grandparents, some of my coats that are a bit pricey, shoes, and what creeped me out the most, copies of my personal documents, passport, IDs, etc. The sister told me she was cleaning up their place when she found my property and used the address shown in them. She was rather nice and apologized for her parents and sister. I did ask her why she refused to take the twins, and she told me that she did because she was tired of being the emergency plan for her family. She didn't say more, and I didn't think it was right to ask her. She knew they were my items because apparently the affair partner had bragged about my ex-husband and giving her these items, except for the documents. She has no idea what's going on with that, but she didn't want anything to do with identity theft. She did bring some things that weren't mine, and I let her know, so I only kept my property. I told my lawyer about the IDs issue, and he helped me get my credit frozen. I'll be getting new IDs and passports. We did report the possible identity theft to the police, so we had the report in case my personal information was used for something illegal or to put me in any trouble. I didn't know one could make a report on a dead person, but apparently, this happens more often than I imagined. And no, this won't turn into a posthumous conviction, it's just paperwork to protect myself. And a last funny note, I am planning to burn that wedding dress and make esmores over the fire. Petty? Yep. Update 7. March 16, 2025. My daughters, 17 and 15, and I, 46F, have a strained relationship with my ex-husband's parents, 78M and 81F. My ex passed away in an accident last year, and we've had some major family drama since due to his cheating and him leaving 2 boys. Born with his affair partner, orphaned, she also died. Part of the drama has been my ex-in-laws trying to get custody of my daughters and them also trying to live with us. First one we're gonna court over. Second one will never happen. Where we live, there's a weekend market with fresh produce, eggs, meats, and other products straight from farmers. This week was extra special since it was my youngest's birthday. Since her party is later in the month, I decided to give her a budget and set her loose on the market to get whatever she wanted, mostly chocolate and sweets. After an hour, I did start getting worried, and just before I called her, she called me. She was crying, saying some weird people have cornered her. I ran to her with my oldest daughter to find 6 older women berating my daughter for being unchristian, for refusing to spend time with her paternal grandparents, or for wanting to be a good big sister to her poor orphan baby brothers. My daughters are the ones that found out about my ex cheating and the babies, so they aren't fond of the kids. It's trauma, and they are working with a therapist. I got between the group and my daughter, telling my eldest to go pay for the stuff her sister had and to go to the car. Then I turned to the women, some who I knew from when we went to my ex-in-law's church, and ripped them a new one. They told me I was worse for refusing to obey my ex-in-laws like a good Christian wife, barf. Eventually, the screaming turned too loud, and we were all asked to leave the market. I met with my girls in the car, the women following me like a group of vultures. I managed to get in the car and drove away. After my girls went to bed, I got online to talk to another member of that church that I'm in good terms with. I told him about what happened, and after he apologized, he told me what was going on. My ex-mother-in-law posted this massive story in the church's group about how horrible my daughters and I are, how we are leaving them homeless and penniless. They inherited my ex's personal bank account and his life insurance, and how my daughters don't even talk to them. She also accused us of being the reason she lost her grandsons. The boys are now living with distant relatives of my ex-husband. Basically, it was a sob story worthy of a Hallmark movie. And of course, they were getting all the love and support from the more extremist members of their church. This church and its members are a bit annoying, especially with LGBTQ+ topics, but they have a small saving grace. They are incredibly strict about cheating. It's a big no-no, be it from a husband or a wife equally. Now, how did she get around blaming me about affair children without exposing the cheating? She claimed the other woman was our surrogate since I was unable to have more children, then said I didn't want the babies because they were boys, which is absolutely disgusting to be accused of. Well, I decided it was time to clean up this mess. Since I was mid-divorce when my ex died, I had all the evidence needed, and since the divorce wasn't completed, I don't have any legal ramifications for releasing all the evidence. I was off the next day and went to a print shop to get copies of all the delightful pictures of my ex cheating, his text conversations with his affair partner, the ones with his parents confessing to his cheating and getting support from them, my ex-in-laws harassing me about the divorce, and my character, Gross. All the emails and text messages of them bullying my daughters about their baby brothers. In one of them, they call my daughters bastards, and telling them it was their fault their father died since they told me about the affair and I began the divorce. This one was literally 2 days after my ex died. I paid extra for all of this to be printed in beautiful, high-quality paper. Then when I got home, I sat down for hours to make delightfully personalized binders. They look like the little prayer song packets the church gives for everyone to take to sing hymns. The first picture when opening the binders is my ex and his side woman making out in our living room. Their faces are easy to discern, and the girl looks nothing like me. Different skin tones and hair color. Underneath, I wrote, ex-husband's name, and affair girl's name love story. I took them to the church before service. There's a desk in the back with the song books for people that need/forget their own, and they never check them. The gossip mill was quick and harsh. The names my ex and his affair partner got called in the Facebook were so bad the pastor himself had to get involved just to keep things relatively PG-13. People were angry at my ex-in-laws for their abuse to my daughters. But what made me laugh was that I was still in the wrong for the divorce. But it is understandable that I failed on my duties after the shock, and I possibly will one day return to the light unlike my cheating husband and his Jezebel. They used another word I can't use here. I imagine I got 2 apology letters in the mail for my girls and an invitation to join the church for support. As for my ex-in-laws, they got shamed into leaving the church. My ex-mother-in-law made a post on her wall about how alienated she feels and how no one cares for the elderly anymore, how she wished her great son was still alive since he would have taken care of her and her husband. With what money? I don't know, since I was the breadwinner. Explanation on the will. My ex-husband had a will that named his parents as beneficiaries. As far as I was aware, he had told me he had named our daughters, not them. I never pushed for me to be the beneficiary, as my own will has my daughters as the beneficiaries. Not him. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Controlling fiancé forced me to sign a disgusting contract about my family the night before our wedding. So I humiliated him by reading it aloud in front of everyone. Okay, Reddit, I need to get this off my chest. I'm 28F, and I'm a dentist. I met this guy, Gene 28M, on a dating app. We went on a few dates, and I quickly started to see some things I didn't like. The first date was at a really trendy bar. Gene ordered a lot of expensive drinks for himself and his friends, and he put it all on his own tab without asking me if I wanted anything specific. I just had water, and he made a comment about it. He said, "Don't worry. I like a girl who knows her limits. It's cute." He gave me a wink, but I didn't feel like he was being nice. It felt like he was looking down on me. The second date was at a loud nightclub. Gene spent most of the night talking to other women while I was getting us drinks. He was very obviously flirting with a blonde woman in a tight dress. When I got back, he didn't even notice me for several minutes. He finally saw me, grabbed his drink, and didn't even say thank you. I told him I felt uncomfortable, and he told me I should loosen up and learn to have some fun. The third date was dinner at a regular restaurant. He spent the whole time talking about his family's money and his plans for the future with their business. He didn't ask me much about my work or my life. Then he said something about my job that bothered me. He said, "Dentistry, huh? That's adorable. My mom always wanted me to marry a doctor, but I guess a dentist is close enough. She'll be thrilled." I realized we were very different. I like quiet evenings, reading, and things like that. Gene was clearly a very social person who enjoyed bars and clubs. I don't have anything against people who like to party. It's just not for me. I work at a well-known hospital, so I'm doing pretty well in my career. Gene, on the other hand, was going to inherit his father's business. After those dates, I stopped answering his texts. He sent me a few messages that got angrier and angrier. The last one called me boring and uptight, and he said I was probably just jealous of girls who know how to have a good time. A few months went by. Then I saw him again at a friend's birthday party. It was at a quiet, upscale lounge, which is more my kind of place. At first, Gene just kind of looked at me from across the room with a little smile, but then he came over and apologized for those texts. He blamed it on having a bad day and drinking too much tequila. He was being very charming, paying a lot of attention to me and even pretending to remember things I told him about my job on our first date. He got some details wrong, though. We spent the whole party together. We left together, but just as friends. Soon after, he asked me out again. He suggested a quiet dinner at a nice restaurant that's known for its food and wine. It seemed like he was actually trying to do something I would enjoy. He said, "I want to make it up to you. I know I messed up before." I thought I'd give him a real chance. Things got serious pretty quickly. Gene started doing big, romantic things, buying me expensive gifts and taking me on weekend trips. It was impressive at first, but then it started to feel like a little too much. He bought me a designer handbag that I never would have chosen for myself. He said, "Every woman deserves a little luxury. We are very different people." He kept making jokes about me going to bed early and liking to stay in, saying I had old lady habits. He'd tease me, saying, "You're going to turn into a pumpkin if you stay out past 10 p.m. Cinderella. We said we loved each other a year after we started dating. We moved in together. He picked the apartment, a luxury high-rise in a trendy neighborhood. I wanted something quieter and closer to my work, but he brushed it off. He said, "Come on, babe, you'll love the views, and the amenities are insane." Living with him, I saw what his everyday life was like. He played video games all day. He went to the gym sometimes, and he partied every weekend at bars and clubs. He'd come home really late, often waking me up. One time, he brought a group of loud friends back to the apartment at 3 a.m., even though he knew I had to get up early for work. His work situation was interesting. He went to his father's company office twice a week, but only if he felt like it. He was supposed to work from home the rest of the week, but he sometimes didn't even do that. The company belongs to his father, and nobody could tell Gene what to do. It was obvious he only had the job because he was the owner's son. He was proud of it, too. He bragged to his friends about how he had it made and didn't have to work hard. His father was still working there, but he kept telling Gene he'd inherit the business someday and that he had faith in him. Gene has a business degree. I tried to talk to Gene about his work a couple of times. He told me that as long as he was getting paid, I didn't need to worry about his professional life. He added, "You wouldn't understand the pressures of a family business. Anyway, it's not like pulling teeth, sweetheart." I knew he was contributing money, so I decided not to argue with him. I just tried to ignore the whole weird work situation. One evening, I got home after a long, tiring shift at the hospital. Gene was playing video games, and the apartment was a mess. I asked him if he'd had time to look at some important documents about our lease. He said he'd get to it later and that I was stressing him out during his downtime. He gestured to the video game and said, "Can't you see I'm in the middle of something? This is important too." I didn't say anything, but I was starting to feel frustrated. My parents are in their early 50s. I've been helping them out with money. It was the right thing to do and I wanted to. I could afford it. I was helping them save for retirement. I paid a couple of their bills every month whenever I could. They told me I didn't have to, but I kept doing it. Gene and I kept our money separate. I didn't tell him about helping my parents because I didn't think it was important. He never told me how he spent his money. A couple of months ago, he found out I had paid my parents' electric bill. My parents had visited the day before, and they mentioned it in conversation. Gene was acting annoyed during the visit, making little comments about how lucky my parents were to have such a generous daughter. He kept refilling his wine glass and ignoring me when I tried to talk to him. Later that night, after my parents had left, Gene brought it up. He slammed a beer bottle on the counter, which surprised me. He said I should have discussed this with him first. He said I was hiding things from him and going behind his back. He told me I must ask him before sending any money to my parents. He said it was about respect and that we're a team now. He said, "You don't make these kinds of decisions without me." I didn't react well to that. We had a big argument. I told him he had no right to control my money. I told him I didn't owe anyone an explanation for how I spent my money, especially since I earned it myself. I also pointed out that I'd never asked him how he spent his money, like when he was buying his friends drinks at the bar every weekend. I said, "At least I'm not blowing my money on useless things and acting like a spoiled frat boy." I told him I could afford to help my parents. Gene said that my money was now our money, and he had a say in how it was used. He said, "What's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine. That's how partnerships work, babe." We didn't speak for a few days after that fight. I slept on the couch. I was starting to feel really uneasy. Gene eventually apologized. The apology was short, and it was more about the misunderstanding than about him trying to control me. He said, "I'm sorry we fought. I get worried about money. It's a family thing." He gave me a cheap bracelet as a gift, which didn't look like anything I'd wear. I felt like I had to accept the apology, even though I was still upset. A few weeks later, I suggested we start saving for a down payment on a house. Gene laughed and said we didn't need to worry about that because his parents would probably gift us a property when we got married. He said, "Besides, you wouldn't want to live in some boring suburb, would you? You'd miss the city life." He didn't even ask what I thought. A couple of weeks after that argument, we got engaged. Gene proposed in a very public, showy way at a fancy restaurant with a lot of his friends there. He got down on one knee, holding a huge diamond ring, and said, "My name. Are you going to make me the happiest man in the world, or what?" I felt like I had to say yes, even though I had mixed feelings. I got really busy with wedding planning. I kind of forgot about that argument. Gene didn't really help with the planning, leaving most of it to me and his mother, but he kept criticizing our choices, saying they were too traditional or not classy enough. He didn't want a string quartet at the wedding, saying, "That's so stuffy. We need a DJ who can actually get the party going." He insisted on a big ice sculpture, which I thought was unnecessary. The wedding was scheduled for 6 months after the engagement. We planned to stay living separately until the wedding. 3 days before the wedding, the night before actually, Gene came to my house where I was staying. He was about to check into a nearby hotel. He gave me a document and asked me to sign it. He told me to hurry. He seemed uncomfortable and was trying to rush me. He kept tapping his foot and avoiding looking me in the eye. He said, "It's just some legal stuff. Nothing to worry your pretty little head about." At first, I thought it was a prenuptial agreement. Then I read it. The document had 3 main clauses. 1. After we were married, I wouldn't be allowed to give any money to my parents or any other member of my family. 2. If we had children, they wouldn't be allowed to be alone with my parents until they were 18 years old. 3. If Gene or his parents thought it was necessary, I might have to cut off all contact with my own family. Gene said the contract was a necessary measure because of the argument we had before about my parents' bills. He mentioned that his father was retiring soon and he would be getting more money. He said he didn't want my parents to think they were entitled to any money. He added, "We need to protect our assets, and you know how families can be. They'll bleed you dry if you let them." He said the clause about the children was just in case my parents tried to use the children against us. He said something like, "You never know what people are capable of. We need to be careful," implying my parents might try to turn our kids against him and his family. He said the no-contact clause was for worst-case scenarios and that I shouldn't worry about that. He was talking to me like the contract was a completely normal thing. He just asked me to sign it, pushing the pen towards me. I signed it, but I made sure to keep that copy. After I signed the paper, I kept thinking about it, and my mind was going a mile a minute. I couldn't fall asleep that night. I stayed up late reading the contract over and over. The next day was the wedding. I went through with all the preparations. I just pretended everything was fine. I got my hair and makeup done and put on the dress. I walked down the aisle. Felt like I was watching it all happen from far away. When it was my turn to say my vows, I asked my maid of honor for my purse. I took out the contract. Everyone looked confused. They probably thought I had written down my vows. Gene and his parents looked alarmed. Gene's father started to stand up. I began reading the contract out loud. I read through all the clauses very carefully, making sure everyone heard each word. I announced that this was what Gene had made me sign the night before. Then I said I wasn't in love with him. I called him a man-child. I said, "You're a selfish, controlling, entitled brat, and I refuse to spend another minute of my life with you." I looked right at his parents and called them privileged douchebags. I ripped the contract into tiny little pieces. I threw the pieces of the contract at Gene's face. A piece of paper landed in his mouth, and he sputtered and tried to call me back. He was yelling my name. "What the hell are you doing?" I grabbed my parents' hands. They looked shocked, but they squeezed my hands tightly. We walked out together. I didn't look back. We got into my parents' car and drove to their house, my childhood home. It was a quiet ride. My mom was crying in the back seat, and my dad was trying to comfort her. When we got home, I changed into something more comfortable, an old sweatshirt and sweatpants. I took off all my makeup. I sat down with my parents. My father told me they were incredibly proud of me. My mother was crying too much to speak clearly, but she was nodding and in agreement with my father. She said, "We love you, honey. We'll always be here for you." I've been staying at my parents' place ever since the wedding. That evening, Gene called me. He yelled and cursed at me. He called me a gold digger and manipulative and said I'd ruined his life. I didn't care. I hung up on him. Then I got a tearful voice message from the woman who would have been my mother-in-law. She said I had made a mockery of her and her family publicly. She said the contract had been presented in private, and I should have rejected it privately. She called me ungrateful and classless, and said I had brought shame on their family. She was crying the whole time. So, Reddit, was I really the one in the wrong here? Update 1. I wanted to give a quick update. I posted here on Reddit about what happened. I don't think I did anything wrong. I might have been a little bit impulsive and impractical, but that's a whole lot different than being selfish, cruel, or disrespectful, and honestly, I don't care if some people disagree with me. Most people seem to think I did the right thing. I keep thinking back to that argument about the electric bill, and it just makes me even more sure I made the right choice. Jean and I had to talk about splitting the cost of the canceled wedding. We had to deal with the caterers specifically. He tried to make me pay more, saying it was all my fault, and that he was losing a lot of money because of what I did. He even threatened to sue me. I told him to go ahead and try. I don't regret the money I lost. If I'd canceled the day before, I would have saved some money, but whatever. At least I have a pretty crazy story to tell now. Update 2. Another update. The wedding expenses for the caterers are finally paid off. It took a lot of arguing and even getting lawyers involved, but we finally agreed to split the costs in half. It's a relief to have that over with, even though it was expensive. Jean has blocked me. I found out when I tried to message him about getting some of my belongings back. I've been feeling a lot of different things. I'm relieved, but I also feel kind of empty. I spent years thinking we were in love. Now I don't really know what to do without him. A part of me actually wants him back, which I know is ridiculous considering everything he did. I'm almost ashamed to admit that. I've been getting a lot of "you're so fabulous" texts from people, which is nice, but it doesn't really change how I feel inside. I'm just feeling numb. I can't really talk to anyone I know about this in person. I don't want to make things awkward or uncomfortable for them. So, any advice on how to deal with this kind of heartbreak? LOL. Update 3. It's been about a month since the wedding. I went back to the apartment we used to share to pack up the rest of my stuff. It was my last time going there. Jean wasn't home. A friend of his, Troy, was there and let me and a friend of mine in. Troy was acting really uncomfortable and made a few comments about how I'd overreacted and ruined a good thing. He said, "Jean's really messed up about this, you know? He really loved you." My friend and I packed up my things. I noticed that some of my stuff was missing or damaged, like a favorite book with pages ripped out and a smashed picture frame. I'm pretty sure Jean did it, but I didn't say anything to Troy. We just left as soon as we could. Before I left, Jean's friend gave me a note from Jean. Troy handed it to me and said, "He wanted you to have this." But he didn't seem happy about it. The note was an apology from Jean. He apologized for what he'd done and how he treated me. He said I'd always been even-tempered and shy, which is funny because it shows he never really understood me. He said things must have been pretty bad for me to react the way I did. He said we were both immature during the relationship, and that we cared more about being in a relationship than about each other. He said he hoped we could meet up again sometime in the future when we were both in a better space. The letter was bittersweet. I don't think we'll ever get back in touch. The damage is done. The apology seemed like he meant it, but he still didn't really acknowledge the main problem: his disrespect and his need to control me. It felt like he was trying to make it seem like we were both equally responsible for what happened. I crumpled up the note, then smoothed it out again. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I've rented a new apartment. It's near my parents' place. It's smaller and not as fancy as the old apartment, but it's cozy and peaceful. I feel safe and relieved being closer to my family. I can visit them whenever I feel lonely. I'm going to focus more on work. I'm sad, but I'm also looking forward to being single. Thinking about it, reading Jean's letter stung. I know that I also made some mistakes. Update 4. It's been 6 months since the almost wedding. I got a promotion at the hospital. I'm now the head of my department. I think it's because I'm able to focus on my work now, and I'm not constantly stressed and worried like I was with Jean. My social life is much better. I've reconnected with old friends and I've made new friends. I feel much more confident and outgoing than I have in years. I even went dancing with my friends, something I never would have done when I was with Jean. My relationship with my parents is stronger than ever. I'm still helping them out financially, but it's different now. We have dinner together regularly, and they're always there to support me. Something surprising happened. Jean's father contacted me. He offered me a job at his friend's dental hospital. He said my skills would be a good fit there and that he always thought I was a good, smart girl. I turned him down. It would have been a major conflict of interest, and I just don't want to be involved with that family in any way. And then I ran into Jean. It was at a coffee shop near my new apartment. He looked not great. He'd gained weight and his clothes were wrinkled. He tried to talk to me, apologizing again and saying he misses me a lot. He told me he's been having trouble at work and his father is thinking about selling the company because Gene can't handle it. He said he realizes now how much he messed up and how good I was for him. I was polite, but I didn't give him much. I told him I'd moved on and that I wished him well, but I wasn't interested in getting back together. I left without saying much else. I felt a little bit of pity for him, but mostly I just felt relieved that I'm not stuck in that situation anymore. This whole thing has made me realize how much I've grown and how much happier I am without Gene's negativity and control in my life. It was a tough decision, but I know I did the right thing. I feel a sense of closure and peace about it all. Update 5. It has now been a year since the wedding that never happened. I just went on my first date. It was really casual, just coffee with someone I met. It was a bit strange and definitely new, but I was happy, excited, and only a little bit nervous. I've been going to therapy, and wow, it has helped so much. My therapist has helped me work through the whole mess with Gene, build my confidence, and learn how to set healthy boundaries. I have finally realized my self-worth. I'm actually looking forward to the future. Now on to the next story. Story 4. My best friend met my BF and decided to scream at him when I went to the bathroom. Turns out he was asking her about rings for me, but she's telling everyone he's dangerous. My boyfriend, we'll call him Blake, 25M, and I, 25F, have been together for 3 years. Before we dated, we used to be co-workers at a retail store when we were both 17. The first thing I noticed about Blake when we met was that he never smiled or showed any emotion. He always had a serious, stone look on his face. He hardly, if ever, showed any emotional sentiment. I don't know how to describe it accurately, but just imagine Eminem or Shadow from Sonic and how they both always have a serious look on their faces. That's how Blake is. Even when customers or our coworkers would try to joke with him, he never cracked a smile or laughed, which would make it awkward for them. However, Blake has always been respectful to those around him and never once raised his voice throughout his whole career. Our coworkers always thought Blake was weird and warned me to avoid him. However, despite all that, Blake and I ended up getting along great and became good friends. I never really minded that he never showed any emotions and still thought he was a good person. He even put up with my loud, extroverted self, LOL. Over the years, Blake and I became close, and I would occasionally see him smile or laugh, which I would lightly tease him about when it did happen. On my 22nd birthday, which is on Valentine's, Blake had asked me to come over to his house and said it was serious. When I got there, it was full of decorations and flowers, and Blake was dressed nicely. He gave a long speech about how much our friendship meant to him and that he was grateful he had met me and asked if I wanted to be his girlfriend. I swear it felt like I was in a 70s rom-com movie. It was the first time I had seen Blake so vulnerable. He still had his cute, serious stone face on him, but I could tell he was extremely nervous. I of course said yes, and we had been a happy couple since then. Now on to the issue. My best friend, let's call her Sarah, 26F, and I have been friends since we were in 5th grade. Sarah and I were each other's partners in crime. She and I were really close before I met Blake. She had never met Blake before, as at the time he and I were just barely talking, and by the time we graduated high school, she had moved away to stay with her dad in another city, so she never got the chance to meet him. I, of course, talked about him and showed pictures of him and me together when we became closer and started dating. However, she once stated how she found it weird that he never was really smiling or seemed happy when he was with me, and that I shouldn't be dating someone who doesn't want to be happy around me. I brushed it off and just assured him that's how he is and that he is actually a sweet guy. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have looked past what she said, but at that time, I thought she was just being a protective friend. She had recently come back to our city and wanted the 3 of us to meet together. We decided to meet at a restaurant her and I used to hang out at. When we got there, Sarah and I ran at each other and squealed like little girls while Blake just stood and watched us. When Sarah looked at Blake, I noticed her expression immediately changed, and she awkwardly smiled and shook his hand and only said, "Hi," to him. Blake just nonchalantly said it was good to meet her. She then went back to talking to me, completely ignoring my Blake. When we got our menus, Blake couldn't find a meal he would enjoy and just said he would be fine with a small appetizer. Sarah unexpectedly said, "Why is nothing here good enough for you?" Why would you agree to come here if you weren't going to get anything? Then she tried to say it like it was a joke. But any person can tell it was obviously not. I then defended Blake, claiming he could have whatever he liked and it wasn't a big deal. Sarah then dropped it at that. Throughout our dinner, Sarah was ignoring Blake and was only trying to talk to me. Blake just stayed silent and watched us, not really caring about it, as he normally is not a big talker when meeting people. When she did include him, she would seemingly only ask him questions that would only need a one-word answer. And when he did answer, she would just give him side eyes or just say, "Okay then." I could already tell Sarah did not like Blake, but I couldn't understand why. She wasn't directly being rude to him, but I could tell when she was making snide remarks about how he was emotionless and whatnot. At one point, she excused herself to the bathroom, and when she left, I asked Blake if he was okay. He assured me he was okay and just wanted me to catch up with my friend. I apologized for how she was acting, and he claimed he didn't care about it and was just happy I was with my friend. I was relieved he wasn't hurt by what was happening but still felt bad for him. After dinner, the three of us went for a walk to see the buildings and stores, and Sarah seemed to be more cheerful. We then came across a person walking a small puppy. I love dogs so much, and Sarah and I cooed and were giggling at how cute the puppy was. Blake was just standing, watching us fawn over the puppy. Once the dog owner left, Sarah turned to Blake and she immediately became angry and asked, "How the hell could you not even smile for a puppy? Are you seriously that soulless?" I was immediately shocked about her sudden change of tone and was about to say something, but Blake just shrugged and walked away, continuing our walk. I asked her what the hell her problem was, and she immediately apologized and said she didn't mean to yell. Our walk then became awkward. I wanted to just go home, but I also felt bad for Sarah as she still had something else planned for after our walk that she had paid for the three of us to do, so I thought to just suck it up until it was over. I then had to use the bathroom, and we found a nearby store. I went in and Blake and Sarah waited for me outside. When I came back, I found Sarah hysterically yelling at Blake. I immediately ran over to them and asked what the hell was going on. Sarah was in hysterics, but she kept yelling, "It's not going to happen. I will never let this happen." I asked her what she was talking about, but all she said was Blake was a sociopath and demanded I break up with him. I looked at Blake, who was just as shocked as I was. I kept trying to ask the both of them what had happened, but neither would answer me, which scared me. People started staring, and I desperately tried to calm Sarah down to de-escalate what was happening. Eventually, I told Blake to walk back to the car, so we could go home and I would call an Uber for Sarah. When we were alone, I was trying to get Sarah to tell me what had happened, but she just stayed silent. Blake came back to pick me up, and Sarah was just deathly staring at him and he kept his head low. I didn't know what was happening and just started assuming they had an argument. Thankfully, Sarah's Uber came and took her back to her hotel. Our car ride home was awkwardly silent, but as soon as we got home, I demanded to know what happened between him and Sarah. Blake just stayed silent, and at that point, I was irritated with the both of them not answering my question. Blake said he couldn't say what happened, but that he was so sorry for what happened. That made me even more confused, and I asked him to please just say what happened. He only said he swore he didn't do anything bad, but that he simply just couldn't say what happened. I then told him I was going to sleep in the guest bedroom, as I just couldn't handle everything that was happening, especially since I still had no answer as to what had happened between the two of them. He said he understood and told me he loved me and went to our room. This all happened not even a few hours ago. I am currently lying in the guest room, confused and scared as ever. I know Sarah and Blake didn't really get along, but I don't know what caused such a huge fight that neither can tell me about. An hour ago, I got a text from Sarah. I will copy and paste it here. "Sarah, I'm really sorry about what happened tonight, but please listen to me. You need to break up with Blake. He is a literal sociopath who is only using you. He doesn't deserve you. I'm telling you this because I love you and want to protect you. Please break up with him." I haven't responded to her text, as I know if I try asking again what happened between them, she won't give me an answer. Reddit, I don't know what to do. I don't know if Sarah had said something to Blake or if Blake had something to Sarah that caused all this, but I'm scared that neither of them will tell me. Does Sarah simply just not like Blake because he doesn't like to show his emotions? Any advice on how I can get the truth or at least some answers would be helpful. Edit 1. I would like to thank you all for your input and advice. I currently am unable to sleep and would like to clarify some things. Blake is not a sociopath. The reason I added the story of when he asked me to be his girlfriend was to give a slight example on how he can be vulnerable and romantic. I did not want to add this as I felt it wasn't my place to say, but for backstory, Blake and his father did not have a good relationship. All I will say is his father raised him to believe men should show no emotion, and it's the reason why Blake is not an emotional person. There are of course times where he would laugh and smile and even cry. He just wouldn't do it as much as an average person would. Despite Blake being an emotionless person, he still has been very nice and respectful and loving towards me, and has never been abusive or even raised his voice at me. Also, I do not believe Sarah and Blake have ever interacted before they have met last night. Blake has to work today, so I will not see him until tonight. I will be speaking to him first before Sarah, and I will update as soon as I can. Also, I apologize if the story is too long or doesn't sound coherent. English is not my best of language, and this is my first time using Reddit. Take care. Edit 2. Just want to let everyone know I'm okay and still waiting for Blake to come home from work. Sarah has been blowing up my phone since her first text, but I decided not to read her texts in the moment. I want to hear Blake's side of the story first, and the way she's going about it seems uneasy to me. Update 1. January 11th, 2025. Hey guys. I'm back with a new update. Before I begin, I just want to thank those who took the time to read and give advice on my post. Now with the update. The night I made the post, I had some time to sit and think about everything that happened. I now know I could have handled the situation better, and I shouldn't have let Sarah continue her horrible behavior towards Blake. The fact that both of them were not telling me what was going on irritated me, and I let my anxiety get the better of me. I wanted to hear Blake out first, so I decided not to read Sarah's messages. I had turned off my phone and spent the day on my computer watching stories and learning how to use it better and going for a run to get my mind off everything. Once Blake came home, I asked if we could talk, to which he agreed. Taking the advice of a kind Redditor, I sat him down and started by apologizing for walking away from him the night before and for not defending him more during the hangout. I assured him I love and trust him deeply and that I will believe what he says to me. Eventually, Blake told me what happened. Some of you guessed it right. Blake was planning on proposing to me. The way he described it was that when I left, he confided in Sarah that he was planning to propose to me and asked if she could help choose a ring since she was supposed to hang out with us again another day. Blake then said Sarah asked if he was being serious, and when he said he was being serious, she then started screaming and lashing out at him. She screamed at him that this engagement will never happen. You don't deserve her. And that's when I came outside. To say I was beyond shocked would be understandable. I then hugged him and once again apologized and asked if that was the reason he didn't want to tell me. Blake said yes, and it's because he didn't want to ruin the surprise. He then apologized for not just telling me, saying it wasn't worth keeping it as a surprise if it was causing us problems. I told him it wasn't causing us any problems, and that I love him even more now. We both then hugged it out and made up. Blake then asked what Sarah had said about the situation. I admitted to him that I didn't read anything she had sent and just turned off my phone as I was scared of what she had said. After a while, I finally turned on my phone, and I honestly wished I didn't. When Sarah said she wasn't going to let this engagement happen, she really did mean it. I don't know how she could do this to me, but now she's got our friends, my sister, and my aunt involved, and even involved my estranged dad, which was a real low blow. For context, my dad and I are no longer on speaking terms due to an incident with my former stepmom. They're no longer together. After finally reading my family and friends' messages, it sums up that Sarah had told them I'm with a sociopath and that I'm refusing to leave him even when she tried to help. So now the people who once knew the sweet, loving Blake that I know think he is now a crazy person and are begging me to leave him. I was and still am beyond furious. I had spent the whole night trying to clear the air with everyone except my dad. Unfortunately, my aunt and some of my friends are still agreeing with Sarah, which is breaking my heart. There were so many texts from Sarah, but it ranged from her begging me to answer her to her being mad that I was taking Blake's side and not hers to her apologizing for involving my dad but saying it was for my own good. I had only sent her one text and it goes as follows. I don't understand how you expect me to take your side when you never told me why you said what you said. Blake had already told me what happened and I can't even imagine what your side is. I can't believe you lied to our friends and my family. And for you to involve my dad. How the hell do you even have his number? Above all, you disrespected my relationship and my boyfriend. EFF you. I have since blocked her. She never told me why she wouldn't tell me what happened. So I still don't know what her motive was on that part other than to try to break us up. Not a great update, but Blake and I are doing okay. He has been very understanding and patient throughout all this, and I couldn't be more grateful for him. I know this might not be the end of this nightmare, so I may update again soon. I just don't know how to go about this. How can I convince my friends and my aunt that Blake is a good person? Should I somehow get Sarah to admit she was lying? Once again, thank you all for your advice. To the one Redditor who said my story was fake and that I shouldn't be with someone like Blake, I just want you to understand that these types of cartoonish situations can unfortunately happen to us. And also, Blake is one of the best things that has ever been brought into my crazy life, and I couldn't imagine my life without him. So screw you. Anyways, I may see you all again soon. Take care. Update 2. January 19th, 2025. Hey Reddit heads, I'm back again. Sorry for the wait. I'm here with another update. Well, here we go again. After my last update, Blake and I had a discussion regarding the issue with my family and friends. In my last post, I stated that Sarah has told my sister, aunt, estranged father and my friends that Blake was an abusive partner who was a sociopath and that I was refusing to leave him. I invited my sister over and asked her what exactly Sarah had said to her about Blake and me. My sister told me that Sarah had told her that while we were hanging out, Blake had been acting cold and rude towards me. She claimed he was ignoring me and lashed out when I tried to talk to him. WTF. She then supposedly tried to tell me he was acting toxic towards me and that I should leave, to which I supposedly refused and told her to mind her own business. Then when I left, Blake had told her he was going to marry me, and that's when she lashed out. So other than that last part, she told a whole big fat lie. After some confirmation from other friends, it was clear that's the story she told. I was pissed and so was Blake, especially since his proposal was ruined. Some commenters and even my sister suggested I get everyone who was told this lie to meet with me and clear the air, so we decided to do that. I had made a group chat of those that had contacted me about Blake, besides my dad, and the others I was able to convince, and told them that I needed to have a face-to-face talk with them all and that this all needed to end. As much as I wanted to just do it in text, I wanted them to all see how serious this was. So we all mutually agreed to meet on Monday night. Come Monday night, after everyone sat down, I started off by saying how amusing it was how they all instantly believed Sarah over me, and how angry and disappointed I was in them. I then told the real story of what happened on how Sarah acted towards Blake in every word she said. I spared no detail. I then made it crystal clear that Blake was a good boyfriend and still the same good, caring person they met, and I'm not going to go out of my way to prove it, especially if they're going to believe someone who had only met Blake once over me. I ended my ramble by stating that anyone who tries to tell me to break up with Blake again or call him any names will be cut off. Thankfully, they all finally believed me, and I've apologized to Blake for how they acted and to me for automatically believing Sarah. Though I mainly just wanted them to apologize to Blake. I thought that would be the end of it. I was able to convince everyone that Sarah was lying. I had Sarah and my dad blocked and Blake and I were as happy as ever. But I spoke too soon. On Thursday, while I was at work, I got a notice from our security team telling me my girlfriend was here to see me. Huh? I obviously knew who it was, however. I went down to see her anyway as I feared if I didn't go see her she would lash out like how she did with Blake. When I saw her, she looked happy to see me, but I was pissed. I told her she needed to leave and never try to come near me and not to dare to go near Blake or I was going to call the police. She started her crocodile tears and told me this was the only way to talk to me. She told me after I told everyone the real story, they all got mad at her for lying and most of our mutual friends cut her off. I told her she deserved it for trying to ruin my relationship. She started to apologize and told me she didn't want to lose me and that she wanted to explain herself. At that point, I was already scared and embarrassed as she started getting loud and we got some stares. I told her she had her chances to tell me her side, Instead, she chose to spread a lie and try to turn everyone against Blake again. She kept trying to apologize and said she didn't mean for all this to happen. I gave her one last warning to leave or I will have security make her leave. Thankfully and surprisingly, she did leave. I was on edge the rest of my shift, afraid my boss would have come in and told me what he saw or that Sarah would have come back. Then I kept getting messages from a random number calling me a stupid B-word and that they hated me. I had no idea who it was from. My strong guess was my father since it sounds like him, but every time I blocked the number, a new one would text me. After I got home, Blake was waiting for me and asked what was wrong. I confided in him what happened. I don't know why I became so emotional, but I started to cry. I honestly was just too stressed out by everything that was happening, and I had a small fear all this would make Blake break up with me over all this. What did this beautiful man say? He reassured me that was never going to happen and that I was his girl, and that he smiled on the inside the night I was defending him to my friends and aunt. To the Redditor who DM'd me telling me I don't deserve Blake, you are right. I really don't deserve such an amazing boyfriend. I thank my lucky stars every single day that I was gifted such a gentleman. Ever since then, I have been getting a lot of unknown calls and texts. I have taken screenshots of all of them before blocking, as I will probably need to file a police report. My sister and some of my friends suggest that I meet with Sarah and have her admit everything she's done and even finally get her side of the story. Blake told me to choose whatever I feel safe with. After talking long and thinking about it with Blake, I have decided to go with meeting her. I had unblocked her and told her I was open to hearing her out now on the condition we meet at a public place, and she told me the full truth. I had sent that message a few hours ago and she hasn't responded, which is scaring me. I know you all were probably hoping this update would be about Sarah finally telling us what's going on. I am strongly hoping she will agree to the meeting so I can finally understand everything. Do you all think it's a good idea to meet up with her? I would love to hear your guys' theories on what Sarah will tell me since my sister already has so many LOL. Before I end this already long post, I want to thank all of you again for your comments and suggestions. A lot of you have been helpful. I also wanted to clarify some comments. To the 90% of you asking if Blake might be autistic, to that I don't know. I don't know if he's ever taken a test to confirm it or if he has but never told me, but I will not push him to do either if he doesn't want to. And yes, he has tried therapy before, but it didn't help him as most of his therapists weren't helpful to him. He is, however, currently looking for a new therapist. Secondly, this is the last time I'm going to say this, but Blake is not abusive or a bad person. Say it with me now. I cannot stress or give any more examples of how many times he has been nothing but a good and considerate person. Blake is my gentle giant. Seriously, he's very tall. It really saddens me all the accusations people like him get just for not showing any emotional sentiments. Yes, we have had small arguments and fights early in our relationship, but what relationship hasn't? Never has he even raised his voice at me. Thirdly, to those asking why I haven't heard Sarah's side yet, it's because she wouldn't tell me her side from the night the event happened. I literally went to her first to ask her what was wrong, and she even had the chance to text me literally anything if her problem was Blake being nearby. But she didn't. Instead, she goes and not only tells people lies but then involves my dad. I will now soon be hearing her side if she actually tells me this time. And lastly, to those of you who are making fun of me for saying to think of Blake as like Eminem or Shadow, I'm sorry, okay? I'm not good at describing someone. 2 weeks before my first post, we had seen the new Sonic movie. I grew up watching and playing Sonic, LOL, and Shadow pretty much reminded me of Blake, so please give me a break. Anyways, I will obviously be back with another update after my conversation with Sarah. Wish me luck and take care. Now on to the next story. Story 5. My husband left me with his mom to help with our newborn, but she did nothing except watch TV all day. When I kicked her out, she spread rumors about me having an affair with my neighbor. So, I'm in a real crap show with my MAL, Carla, and I'm honestly torn on whether I should feel like a total beach or not. Carla's always been a nosy one, but she used to be sweet to me, so it never really got under my skin. I've been with my hubby for 6 years, married for 3, and about a month ago, I gave birth to our little girl. My husband's in the military, so he shipped out shortly after our daughter was born and won't be back for a few months. I was bummed he had to leave so soon, especially since he was only around for the last couple weeks of my pregnancy. But, duty calls and I'd never stand in his way. He left Carla with me, which I thought was a godsend at the time. Before he left, the three of us had to sit down, and we all agreed that Carla would stay with me instead of heading back home. I was pretty stoked because I don't really know anyone around here. We moved, I got knocked up like a few weeks later, so I didn't get a chance to make friends. Plus, my best friend since childhood lives across the country, and while we talk almost every day, it's not the same as having someone here. But things started going sideways after my husband left. Carla turned into a total freeloader. For the first few days, I was so sleep-deprived and overwhelmed that I barely noticed. Then it hit me. I was doing most of the housework and taking care of the baby. Carla just camped out in the guest room, yapping on the phone all day, only emerging for meals to tell me how great a cook I was before disappearing again. It was like she expected a 5-star hotel experience complete with maid service. It didn't help that my neighbor, some young dude who inherited his aunt's house, decided to take up the piano and practiced at all hours. I swear his playing was so bad it could curdle milk. I used to complain about it to my husband before he left, and honestly it was a small blessing when he deployed just to get away from that noise. During our pre-deployment powwow, my husband and I figured Carla would help out around the house, but here I was doing double duty because she refused to lift a finger. After 2 weeks, I finally confronted her. She claimed she was waiting for me to tell her what to do, which is the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. I mean, she has eyes, right? She could see I was drowning. This woman raised 2 kids of her own, including my husband. Surely, she remembered what it was like having a newborn. And on top of that, she had the audacity to act like she was doing me a favor by gracing me with her presence. I chalked it up to a misunderstanding and started giving her specific tasks. She'd either do them way later than I asked, or I'd end up doing them myself because she forgot. One time I asked her to sterilize the baby bottles and she left them soaking in cold water for hours. Another time, I asked her to put away the laundry, and she just dumped the clean clothes on the guest bed where they sat for days. It was infuriating. She'd always have some excuse, like she got caught up watching her favorite soap opera or chatting with her sister, who, by the way, is just as much of a busybody as Carla. The whole situation was a dumpster fire, so at the end of the month, I told her this wasn't working and she needed to leave. I figured if I was doing all the work anyway, I might as well be alone. At least then I wouldn't have to cater to her. I could just focus on the baby and myself, maybe catch up on some sleep, or finally start that online yoga class I signed up for but never had time to do. Carla wasn't thrilled. She accused me of being ungrateful, saying I should be thankful she even offered to help. She expected to help with the baby while I did all the housework. Like what? I'm the mom. I carried this baby for 9 months, went through labor, and now I'm supposed to hand her over to someone else? If she really wanted to help, she'd have tackled the chores so I could bond with my baby. It was clear she had her own agenda and it had nothing to do with helping me. It was like she thought she was on some kind of extended vacation with me as her personal chef and housekeeper. The whole thing felt so gross. After I told her to leave, she said she had nowhere to go. She'd already ended her lease, assuming she'd be living with me long-term. That confirmed it. She was a freeloader. She didn't want to pay rent, so she weaseled her way into my home under the guise of helping me. She probably thought she hit the jackpot. Free room and board, plus someone to wait on her hand and foot. And the worst part was, she acted like she was doing me some huge favor by staying here. I was furious. I told her I didn't give a damn about her situation. I just wanted her ass out. She finally left a couple of days ago, and I immediately called my parents, begging them to come help. They live in another state, so they were only here for the birth and stayed 3 days after, leaving the day before my husband. They had offered to stay longer, but I turned them down because I didn't want them to neglect their store, and Carla had already promised to move in and take care of everything. They had owned a small grocery store for years, and it was their livelihood. I knew they were relying on my uncle to cover for them, but he had his own family to take care of. Still, I felt bad asking them to drop everything and come back so soon, but after kicking out Carla, I was desperate. My parents took the next flight here and have been with me since. Thankfully, Uncle is holding down the fort at the store. He's been a real lifesaver, and I'm so grateful to have him in my life. I don't know what my parents would have done without him all these years. Anyway, it's been about 4 days since I kicked out my MIL. I told my husband everything, how useless Carla was. I hadn't told him earlier because I didn't want to stress him out, knowing he was relying on his mom to help me. He said I did the right thing. But last night, I got a barrage of texts from Carla saying I ruined her life. I was confused, so I called my husband. Apparently, he told his family to cut her off, and now she really had nowhere to go because she'd been staying with his uncle, who also kicked her out. That's why she was so pissed. Turns out she tried to sabotage our relationship by telling my husband I was up to no good while he was away. She told him I was having an affair with the next-door neighbor, suggesting he get a paternity test and come back ASAP because she wasn't sure the baby was his. She also claimed she left because she found out about the affair and I kicked her out to cover my tracks before my husband found out and left me. These were some seriously messed up lies meant to destroy my marriage. Thankfully, my husband didn't fall for it. I'm so relieved. He didn't even need to confront me to know it was BS. It was also pretty obvious she was lying because our next-door neighbor is this annoying 20-something who plays the piano terribly all weekend. I complained about him to my husband when I first moved in, so if Carla really knew me, she'd have picked someone else to be my supposed lover. Plus, the guy is a total slob. He leaves his trash cans out for days, and his lawn is always overgrown. There's no way I'd be attracted to someone like that, even if I were the type to cheat, which I'm not. After Carla's call, my husband called his family, told them everything, and said he didn't want anyone talking to Carla. If they did, we'd cut them off. He gave them an ultimatum, and it worked. Now nobody's talking to Carla, and even her own brother kicked her out. After our talk last night, I thought she deserved it and blocked her. But in her texts, she accused me of ruining her life. This morning, she showed up at my door demanding I let her in. She said I was the reason she lost her home and needed a place to crash for a few days before finding an apartment nearby. She wanted to visit on weekends to see her granddaughter regardless of our issues. I told her that after what she did, she wouldn't even get to see her son when he came back and she needed to leave before I called the cops. But she refused, throwing a tantrum like a child, stomping her foot and yelling that it was unfair we expected her to do chores instead of playing with the baby. When we discussed this, we were clear we'd split chores, with her taking on the time-consuming tasks and I'd care for the baby. She made her own assumptions and ended her lease without talking to us. How is this our fault? And 49 isn't that old. If she felt that old, she shouldn't have offered to help. Things got heated and the argument got nasty. She tried to force her way in with her bags, and I had to slam the door after a lot of effort. I mean, she tried to ruin my marriage while I was caring for a 1-month-old, but maybe I do owe her somehow. After I shut the door, she started crying, saying she had nowhere to go and didn't want to waste money on hotels. She begged me to forgive her, saying she needed someone. I almost gave in because I'm still emotional from giving birth, but my parents told me not to. They said she already tried to ruin my marriage and I shouldn't let her back in. We ignored her until she left, and now I feel bad. I could have let her stay for a few days. My husband and parents say I did nothing wrong, but I'm not sure. So, am I the a-shole for not letting my ML move in after she was cut off by her family because of our fight? Edit. My FIL isn't around. He passed away a few years ago. My husband has been supporting his mom since his husband didn't leave her much because he died after a long illness, so most of his money went to healthcare. He left her their house, which she sold to move into a small apartment, but she ended that lease, too. My husband has been sending her money, and she's lived comfortably, but now that he's cut her off, I don't think he'll send her money. I hope she saved enough from the house sale to live on her own or she'll be in trouble financially. Date 1. Hey everyone. Things have been pretty chill lately. Haven't heard from Carla since she left the other day. It's been 3 whole days, and I was starting to think maybe she learned her lesson and was going to stay away for good. But that was just wishful thinking, I guess. I mean, she was bawling her eyes out and she's not exactly the type to just roll over and give up. Plus, like I said before, she's always been a bit of a busybody. So yeah, she somehow managed to get some of my husband's family on her side and now they're coming after me. It's mostly just a bunch of old ladies around her age, her little gossip circle. You know? The ones who think every word that comes out of her mouth is gospel. It's basically just a couple of women from my husband's family who sit around with her and trash talk everyone at every family gathering. So naturally, they're taking her side in all of this. I bet they don't even believe her story, but they just want to be part of the drama. That's why they're targeting me, so they can be the ones being talked about instead of doing the talking. It's like they're desperate for attention or something. It's actually kind of sad when you think about it. They started blowing up my phone with texts from different numbers, and I had to block them all because they were just so nasty. They accused me of actually having an affair with my neighbor, saying I was just mad that Carla found out the truth. They said I was manipulating my husband into not believing his own mother and that I even got her ostracized from the family. But they also said it wouldn't last long because I couldn't hide the truth forever. Look, I don't really care that they're trying to mess with me, but the fact that they're trying to trash my character like this really pisses me off. I talked to my husband about it and he said he's going to try to do something, but I know he can't. He's already done what he could by telling his family not to talk to Carla, but this is out of his control. These women have made it clear they're on Carla's side and I just have to ignore them. It's just that I'm so emotional right now that everything is getting to me and I hate it. I can't help it. My parents are here for me and my husband said he'll try to visit ASAP. Until then, I just have to keep ignoring these people and not let it get to me. I know my truth and I know who I am, so I'm just trying to keep my head cool. Update 2. Okay, so I just realized something weird has been going on. It's been a week since my last update, and for the past 4 days, I haven't gotten any texts or anything from Carla and her crew. So I'm starting to think they might have finally given up on trying to get under my skin. Honestly, it's a relief. I was starting to get used to the constant harassment, but it was still draining. The last few texts I got from her and her friends were on social media. They were saying they were going to make sure the truth came out and that they were going to talk to my neighbors to expose me as a horrible person and reveal how long the affair had been going on. In their minds, they were totally convinced it was real. Bless their delusional hearts, seriously. They seemed so sure of themselves, it was almost comical. I wasn't really threatened by any of it because, well, I know the truth. And after talking to my husband, who told me not to worry about it, he believed me 100% and nothing would change that. I knew I had nothing to worry about. It was reassuring to know that he had my back no matter what. He's always been my rock, and this whole situation just proved it even more. My husband also talked to the rest of his family, and they reached out to tell me they had also cut ties with the women siding with Carla. They were fully on my side, and I felt really good about it all. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I finally felt like I could breathe again, like I could just focus on my baby and my life without this constant drama hanging over me. After I found out that Carla and her so-called friends had been cut off too, they stopped texting me. I guess they realized nothing good would come of it and the drama wasn't worth it. Maybe they finally realized they were fighting a losing battle, or maybe they just got bored and moved on to some other poor soul to harass. Who knows? So the very last text I got from any of them was 4 days ago. Then, in the evening, I got a really short email, probably from Carla. She said she found an apartment and was going to make me suffer for ruining her life and making her family hate her. She called me a lazy cow and said she didn't know why her son chose someone disgusting and ugly over his mother. But she was sure it wouldn't last and said she was already looking for new people to replace me since my only duty to my husband was done and he could move on to better pastures. So she really believed that just because I had a baby and gained some weight my husband would leave me? It was all pretty unhinged. First, I was the cheater, and now she's going to make sure my husband cheats on me. It's just confusing. Anyway, I blocked that email address, and after that I didn't hear from her. It was a bit confusing for a couple of days, but now I feel much better not having to worry about her bothering me again. Update 3. I guess I celebrated too soon. Just 2 days ago I was talking about how I thought Carla and her friends had finally decided to leave me alone. And today, they all showed up at my place and tried to bully me, but it didn't end well for them. So a couple of hours ago, the doorbell rang several times. When I checked, Carla and all her friends were outside. There were about 6 of them, and they looked like they meant business. I immediately told them to leave through the intercom or I'd call the cops. I was mostly worried about my baby. I just put her to sleep and she'd been fussy all day. I didn't want to wake her, and I knew if they were all here, they'd be fighting and arguing and I didn't need that. I told them to leave and was about to go back to my room to get my phone when one of them had the bright idea to pick up a rock from the lawn and throw it at the window. It came crashing in, and there were pieces of glass all over my living room floor. I was shocked, and soon enough the other women followed suit. They all started throwing rocks through the window. I had to hide behind the couch because I was scared for my life and didn't want to get hurt. We have small decorative rocks in the garden bed, so there were a lot they could throw. I couldn't even go back to my room to get my phone because any movement while they were throwing rocks could lead to me getting injured. Even when my parents showed up to check out what was going on, I had to tell them to leave and go to the nursery and make sure that my daughter was fine because that's all that I really cared about. This went on for almost 2 whole minutes, and by the end of it, my living room floor was completely strewn with bits of glass and rocks. It looked like a war zone. I didn't even have the courage to walk across the floor and go to my room because I was wearing just socks and there was no way I could get to my room without having to walk. So I just stayed behind the couch and was literally crying because I was so scared. And then things went from bad to worse. I thought that they would leave after they had completely demolished my living room windows and made it absolutely impossible for me to leave to call the cops. But then they started banging against the door. I guess they were trying to kick down the door, but thankfully they aren't strong enough for that. And while they were trying to do that, the cops finally showed up because I guess my parents had called them. I don't even remember much after that. It's all a blur. I left my parents to deal with everything because when the cops found me, I was still crying behind the couch and I was obviously very traumatized from everything that was happening. The cops had to literally carry me to my room, and I kept crying even then, and eventually I just fell asleep while crying. I guess the adrenaline just wore off and I crashed. When I woke up, Carla and her friends were all gone and my parents had somehow managed to clean up all the glass and rocks that had been thrown in. But we couldn't be in the living room for long because the windows had to be repaired. And until then, the cold wind from outside would be entering the room with nothing to stop it. It was a mess. After I woke up, they told me that they were the ones who had put me to sleep and I didn't remember it. But my mother had sat beside me while my dad dealt with the cops and pressed charges against Carla and her gang who had harassed us. They were furious. I've never seen my dad so angry. He's usually such a calm and gentle guy, but this really pushed him over the edge. They also told me that my daughter had woken up and had been crying because of the noise and rocks being thrown at the windows and crashing and stuff. But after I fell asleep, even she did. The last couple of hours after I woke up I'd been spending every single second with her. And I haven't even let her out of my sight for even 1 second. I just needed to hold her to know that she was okay. My dad told me that he was going to have everything repaired and the living room would be back to normal in a couple of days, so I didn't need to worry about that. And he had also spoken to my husband and he was coming back this weekend itself so that he would be there for me. He sounded so worried on the phone. I could hear the fear in his voice. I'm so grateful that my parents were here with me throughout this ordeal because I can't imagine having to deal with all of this alone. I just really can't. Today has been an incredibly scary day, and I spoke to my husband just now. He was very concerned about me and he told me that he has spoken to a lawyer and he's going to get it arranged for us to file a restraining order against Carla and her cronies. He's taking this very seriously, thank God. Of course, it's unlikely we will have to see them again because they will probably never be invited to any family event ever again and might even end up behind bars for a couple of months. I really hope that's true because I don't even want to see these people again. I don't know what they were thinking or hoping to accomplish with the stunt that they pulled off today, but it's clear to me that they are psychotic and unhinged and I just never want to run into them ever again. Update for Hello, I'm back here again. It's been several weeks, but this update has been long overdue. I got really busy with taking care of my baby and I also had to go back to work. I'm working from home, but it still keeps me very busy. But there have been a considerable number of changes since my last update. Life has been, well, it's been a lot. First of all, my husband quit his job and decided to move back in with us on a more permanent basis because he said that he didn't want to lose out on spending time with his baby girl when she was so little. So he's going to try and build something of his own, and that's going to take a lot of work. But for now, he's just enjoying being a stay-at-home dad, and I couldn't be happier for him. It's been amazing having him home. He's such a natural with the baby, and it's like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I didn't realize how much I was missing him, how much I needed him here until he was actually here. I make enough for both of us, so I'm not worried. And my parents have also said that they'll help us out if we need it until he's able to get back on his feet and are even going to invest in whatever he decides to start. We also have savings to rely on, so money-wise we're doing pretty well. We're lucky. I know not everyone has the kind of support system we have, and I'm so grateful for it. My parents finally went back home a couple of weeks ago, but we have stayed in touch and we video call almost every day because they really miss their granddaughter, and I can understand that. It was hard saying goodbye to them, but I know they'll be back soon. And honestly, it's been nice having the house to ourselves again. Just the three of us. And now, what happened to Carla and her friends who had messed me up really good the last time that I had talked about her here? So, all of them are serving time in prison and will be there for the next 3 months. They were charged for their criminal activities and ended up with a 3-month sentence, a huge fine, and community service once they got out of jail. Obviously, they had to also pay damages for my windows, and I was able to get a restraining order against all of them as well. It's a relief, to say the least. I finally feel like I can breathe easy, like I don't have to look over my shoulder all the time. Thankfully, it seems very unlikely that after this we will ever have to see them again, and I'm really grateful for it. Now it's just going to be my husband, me, and our daughter, and I'm really looking forward to the next couple of months, because this is what I've been missing for so long. This is what I always wanted. A happy, peaceful life with my little family. And now, finally, it feels like we're on the right track. Now on to the next story. Story 6. Sister kept telling everyone her husband hated our family events. But when I confronted him, he had no idea what I was talking about. Turns out, she was making everything up. Hello, everyone. I, 26F, live in a small town with a lot of family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. Basically everyone related to me lives here. My sister, Lilia, 28F, married her husband, Sean, 31M, last year. I don't know him very well, but I don't have a problem with him either. Every other weekend, my mom will host a party type thing for the whole family. There's food, decorations, music, etc. Everyone has a blast. A few months ago, my sister started acting kind of strange at these parties. Her husband isn't a very social person, from what I can tell. He usually stands off to the side, sometimes without food. Lilia started making comments, usually to our immediate family but sometimes to anyone who would listen, about how Sean thinks the decorations look tacky or Sean thinks the music is too loud. At first, it was basically harmless, but the comments got worse and worse. She started saying things like that outside of family parties, too. The weekend before last, she made small talk for a while before saying, Sean doesn't look like he's having a good time. I don't think he likes the food very much. I can't really blame him, we don't usually eat at low-ass restaurants like yours. Her comments always pissed me off, but this pushed me pretty hard. My mom works really hard to make delicious food for these parties. She's a chef at Olive Garden. I guess my mom could tell I was getting upset, so she pulled me aside and told me not to say anything to Lilia, that it wasn't a big deal, stuff like that. I respected her wishes, even though I really wanted to stand up for her. Last week, Lilia called and said Sean's best friend is getting married. I'm a wedding planner, and she wants me to plan the wedding. I said, sure. This weekend, Sean's best friend and his fiancée had a joint bachelor and bachelorette party. Lilia is a bridesmaid. She invited me to come along so I could meet the bride and groom and probably officially become their wedding planner. When I arrived at the club, Lilia immediately grabbed my wrist and pulled me to the bathroom. She said, Sean isn't happy. No one will take you seriously as a wedding planner if you dress like a slut. You embarrassed him. And now the groom will blame him for recommending a shitty planner. I had enough of her at that point. It felt like she was just using Sean as an excuse to voice her own opinions. I said, if Sean thinks I'm a shitty wedding planner for dressing normally for a damn club, he can get the groom a new wedding planner. I walked out and went home. Update 1. October 24th, 2024. Okay, here's the update. Thank you, everyone, for your great comments and advice. I ended up inviting Sean and Lilia out to lunch. Lilia was still a little upset that I had dressed like a slut at the club, but mostly things went fine. Before we left, I asked Sean if he thought my outfit at the club was inappropriate. He said, no. I asked if he thought my mother's cooking was bad. He said, no. Again. This time he looked more confused. Before I could ask him about another comment, Lilia grabbed his arm and pulled him up. She said they had to go. Sean looked even more confused and told Lilia he wanted to hear what I was going to ask next. She looked visibly angry. After I asked him if he thought the decorations were tacky, Lilia said, "If you're not coming, I'm leaving without you." She ran to the car before either of us could stop her. Sean was really confused now and asked why I thought he didn't like the food, etc. I told him the whole story of how Lilia was telling me and my immediate family he was saying rude things. He looked completely shocked now. He said he never said any of those things and that he thinks the parties are wonderful. He explained he's just a little antisocial and gets nervous around people he doesn't know well, which I totally get. He apologized if anything he did was offensive, but I said there was no need for an apology. I gave him a ride home. Lilia took off with her car. When we got there, my sister's car wasn't in the driveway. I went to my mom's house next to drop off some stuff I had for her in the car. When I got there, Lilia's car was parked outside. She was sitting at the dining table crying, and my mom was doing her best to comfort her. When my sister saw me, she started crying even harder. I sat down and waited until she could calm down. When she finally did, I gently asked why she was saying all those things. Lilia said, "I don't know, to make you hate him, I guess." My mom asked why she wanted us to hate him. She kept replying to our questions with "I don't knows" before admitting the truth. She said she'd been feeling jealous since our brother Eric got married. She felt like he was getting all the attention, especially when his wife announced her pregnancy. She also said Eric was always the golden child growing up, and she wanted people to notice her just this once. I never thought he was the golden child. In fact, Lilia seemed to be favored over him, but maybe I was too wrapped up in my own stuff to notice. My sister decided to stir up some drama to get the attention back on her. She used Sean because no one in the family knew him very well, and it was easy because he doesn't interact with a lot of people. She claimed she wanted the attention so badly, even if it was negative. She wanted to see how far we'd let her go before one of us snapped. After a long talk, she promised never to do anything like this again, and admitted she mostly did all this out of resentment toward Eric for always stealing the spotlight. My mom promised to pay more attention to her, and she apologized if she ever made Lilia feel like Eric was better than her. We all hugged it out. Earlier tonight, Lilia called me and said she and Sean were going to try couples therapy, and she was going to get individual therapy for herself. I said I was happy for her and she can come to me if she ever needs anything. I guess that's it. I'll update again if anything else happens. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. Dang. Personally, I would never trust Lilia with anything ever again. Especially because she craved attention so much she didn't care if it made her partner, a man she supposedly loves, into the bad guy. What's stopping her from doing that to any one of you if she could do that to the man she made vows with? My mom promised to pay more attention to her, and she apologized if she ever made Lilia feel like Eric was better than her. I don't really like this response, to be honest. Lilia straight up admitted she wanted people to hate Sean for no reason, and she gets rewarded with love and more attention. OP. My mom has stage 4 cancer and we don't know how much longer she'll be here. I completely understand wanting this all to just be over and cherishing the time she has left with her daughter. But in a different situation, I 100% agree that this wouldn't be a great response. Comment 2. Is Lilia the middle child? OP. No, she's the oldest. Eric is the middle child. Comment 3. Honestly, OP, if I were you, I'd give your sister some LC space because she's acted horribly to all of you, and at her poor husband's expense, all because she didn't have enough attention. She needs help and you need to stay away from her for a bit. She's just drama at this point. You can still be there for your mom while keeping low contact with your sister. Stop making excuses for her. OP. I would, but I think a lot of this was caused by mom's decline in health. I want to be there for all of my family if the worst were to happen. My mom wants all of us to be there for her as a family. If I went low contact, it would really hurt my mom and cause other damage to the family. I also think this is just Lilia's way of dealing with the grief of possibly losing our mom. It doesn't excuse her behavior, of course, but I can't go low contact now when she needs me. Update 2. October 25th, 2024. Hi again. I wanted to give a mini update and answer some questions I've seen in the comments. I am 26, Eric is 27, and Lilia is 28. I didn't end up planning Sean's best friend's wedding. I found out the wedding is in 2 weeks and they were scrambling to put everything together, confirm everything, even book some things last minute, so no, I didn't take that job. I am not trying to justify Lilia's actions in any way. I agree that she really needs therapy. I'm just trying to help people understand why I'm not going no contact with her. First, there's our mom. If I personally wanted to cut contact with her, our mom has cancer. She wants us to be together as a family for her, and I respect that. Also, I would love someone who's cut off a family member to comment and explain how it all went, especially someone who lives in the same town as a lot of family. My hunch is it's not easy. I probably should have put this in the original post, but I'm saying it now. My father died when I was 19 in a bad car crash. Lilia was really close to him. My sister has been my best friend since I was born. That's not something I want to throw away over one incident. Yes, it was wrong. Yes, I am angry at her. Yes, it will take a long time for me to trust her again, but I still love her. She's done so much for me. Punched someone who was bullying me in the face, worked double shifts to help with my tuition, never once left my side when I suspected my ex was stalking me, and that's just to name a few. I don't think she's a terrible person. I think she screwed up out of fear for our mom and the trauma of losing our dad. The jealousy part could also be true. She's always been a very jealous person. It will take time for me to forgive her, but I think we can work things out. Now on to the mini update. I spoke with mom today. She's also angry at Lilia, of course, but she wants to keep the peace, at least until her time comes. She said conspiratorially, "At the next party, Sean's going to pull a Lilia set on her." Half joking, though it would be funny if it really happens. I spoke to Sean too. He's the angriest out of us, but he said he loves her and is going to try to work things out. They start couples therapy on Saturday, and Lilia starts individual therapy tomorrow. I wished him the best. Now on to the next story. Story 7. I started dating my boyfriend, Jeff, 10 months ago. This relationship has been amazing so far, and I definitely see a future with him. There's just one problem. He has a weird relationship with his ex that's starting to make me really uncomfortable and suspicious. When we started dating, he often talked about his best friend, Jenna, who he also owns a business with. He made it pretty clear that she was an important person to him. I knew they had spent vacations together, and he mentioned hanging out with her parents a few times, too. A few weeks after I met him, I creeped through all his pictures on Facebook because who doesn't do that with someone they just started dating, and saw a bunch of very couple-y pictures of him and Jenna. I also found her Instagram and looked through it, and it's filled with pictures of Jeff. A bunch of them had the hashtag relationship goals and other similar things. So, in this way, I figured out that they had dated. I kept waiting for him to tell me that himself, but he never did. About 2 months after we started dating, I straight up asked him if he had dated her, and he admitted it. He said that they had met in school and had similar ideals and ambitions. They dated for 9 months and broke up a year and a half ago. I asked him why they'd broken up, and he said their relationship was awful and they worked much better as friends. They started their business after they broke up, and things have apparently been going well between them since then. I started to get kind of suspicious about her, though, when time passed and I still hadn't met her. I met his friends and family pretty soon after we started dating, but I didn't meet Jenna. I went to numerous social events that I'd expect her to be at, but she was never there. There were a number of occasions when our paths almost crossed, and I really thought I was going to meet her, but I never did. For example, I went to their office a few times to meet Jeff after work, and Jenna was already gone. Or sometimes I'd come to meet him, and he'd come outside to meet me so I wouldn't have to go inside. Things started to get really weird about 3 months ago. Jeff and Jenna were having an open house night one evening. Jeff came over to my place after work, and we had a few hours to kill before it was time to go. So we went out for dinner and then walked to the office. I was kind of expecting that I'd come in and help them set up, but when we were a block away, he started asking me if I had lots of work to do and saying there was a really nice coffee shop nearby. He actually walked me to the coffee shop and sat me down, then left to go get ready with Jenna. He told me to come to the office in an hour and a half. About half an hour before I left for the office, I texted and said I hoped everything was going well and asked if there was anything I could do. He replied and said, "Something's come up for Jenna, and she can't be here tonight." I was getting really suspicious at this point. I went to the office half an hour later, and sure enough, Jenna wasn't there. People kept asking about her all night, and Jeff told them she'd had a family emergency. When we walked back to the car later that night, he told me what happened. While he and Jenna were getting ready, she had had a panic attack and said she was scared to meet me. She said she wouldn't be able to handle it and either had to leave or he had to tell me not to come. He told her to leave, so she did. Since then, a couple more weird things have happened, and I still haven't met Jenna. Once when I was hanging out with Jeff, we went to the office so he could grab something. When we were almost there, he looked at his phone and said, "Jenna's still there. Let's just go for a walk." So we walked around the block for half an hour and then came back when she was gone. After that happened, I told Jeff I felt really uncomfortable with the situation. I could respect that they were friends who had dated, but the way she was acting about me was very suspicious. He apologized and said he had actually been really mad at her but wasn't sure what to do. He also told me a couple of other weird stories about things she'd done. He went to a party a few weeks ago I didn't go, and his phone had died that night. When he got home and charged his phone, it was full of texts from Jenna saying she was outside in her car and asking if I was there or not. She actually never even ended up going to the party, simply because she didn't know if I was there or not. Now, here's the kicker. Jeff and Jenna are currently on a 2-week-long camping trip. They've been planning this trip since before I met him, but considering the way she's behaved, I feel very uncomfortable about him being on this trip. I just looked at her Instagram, and she's posted 5 new pictures of him. As awesome as Jeff is, I'm really fed up with this, and I'm seriously considering breaking things off when he gets back. Am I being unreasonable? Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. You're not being unreasonable at all, and I can understand why you feel so upset about the whole situation. If I were you, I'd be asking Jeff a few questions. Does he know the root issue of why she doesn't want to meet you? Is she like this with anyone else? Explain to him that the situation is upsetting you and that you aren't comfortable with him going on a 2-week vacation with her. She is, after all, his ex-girlfriend, and the whole thing strikes me as a little strange. Maybe you could talk about meeting Jenna with Jeff present in a quieter, mutual place like a cafe or a restaurant. If Jeff was my boyfriend, I'd be looking for answers. Best of luck to you, and please post an update. OP. It's kind of reassuring to hear that other people don't think I'm being unreasonable. I have actually asked him if he knows why she's being like this, and he says he's asked her the same thing and hasn't gotten a clear answer. He said he's asked her if she still has feelings for him, and she said no. They're actually already on their trip, so there's not much I can do about it at this point. I think I'll try probing him a bit more when he gets back and see if he might know a bit more than he's telling me about her behavior. Comment 2. You're not only not being unreasonable, but you have put up with way more than most other people would have. I would have noped out of there when I found her Instagram and realized he didn't tell you that he had dated her. Not to mention all the crazy, over-the-top nonsense she's pulled since, and he is going on a 2-week-long trip with this girl. Oh God, so much nope. OP. Well, I'm glad that at least I'm not the only one who thinks it's weird. I kind of feel like I probably would have called it off already if he wasn't so great in other ways. This is seriously the best relationship I've ever had. But the whole Jenna situation is really over the top. Comment 3. Why wasn't OOP on the camping trip, or why wasn't it canceled? OP. I have to work, and I was never invited. As far as why it wasn't canceled, good question. Update. I wrote my previous post over a year ago, and a lot has happened since then. I wanted to give everyone an update since the advice on this sub was really helpful at the time. For a few months after I wrote my op, nothing much happened. Jeff and I continued dating, and he continued being friends/partners with Jenna. I never met her, but everything else in our relationship seemed to be going so well that I decided I'd try to deal with it. Things got really hard, however, when I had to take a work contract 12 hours away from home for 3 months. I hardly saw Jeff the whole time, and I looked at Jenna's Instagram almost every day to see if she'd posted more photos of them together. More often than not, she had. Since I wasn't physically present, I felt like Jenna was his real girlfriend. I felt completely worthless and constantly stressed out, knowing my boyfriend was spending all his time with another woman who I already had suspicions about. While I was away for work, I decided to break up with Jeff. I broke up with him as soon as I came back, and I made it very clear that his relationship with Jenna was intolerable for me. I told him he was going to have a hard time dating anyone who wasn't her as long as she was still in his life. He kept saying he didn't understand why it was such a problem. He told me he couldn't control her behavior, but he promised me he hadn't cheated on me. I explained to him that by allowing their friendship to continue, he was condoning her behavior. I told him I didn't really even care if he'd physically cheated or not, since he'd already shown disrespect for me and our relationship. I didn't speak to him for a few months, and I went on with my life. I took another contract out of town and even considered moving permanently to another city. One night, though, Jeff called me and apologized. He said he had been thinking about our relationship a lot and realized he had been in the wrong. He said his relationship with Jenna was beginning to feel toxic to him, and he made arrangements to dissolve their business partnership. After that, I decided to meet up with him, not necessarily give him another chance, and discuss the situation further. When we met up, he promised to stop talking to Jenna and unfollowed her on all social media. As of now, he has not spoken to her in 6 months, and we've gotten back together. We actually ran into her at a concert a few weeks ago, and they didn't even say hi to each other. I feel much more respected and confident in my relationship now. Now on to the next story. Story 8. Mom kicked me out for her new fiancé after Dad died and uninvited me from her wedding, so I reached out to my grandparents. Now she's losing our house and her engagement. My dad passed away about a year ago after a really long struggle with brain cancer. We knew that he was not going to make it as soon as he had been diagnosed because the doctors had told us that it was a little too late for him, but we still tried our very best to keep the treatments going. He put on a brave face for us, but ultimately we lost him. He was my best friend ever since I was a kid, and even though I definitely love my mom, I loved him a lot more. After he passed away, I felt like a piece of me had left with him and I was never going to get that piece back. So naturally, I was quite emotionally affected by his demise, and for the past 1 year, I've been quite lost. I was 16 back then and recently I turned 17, and I decided to take a gap year after I graduated high school because I needed some time to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I'm privileged enough to have that choice since my family has been supportive of my decisions so far. So, I'm going to work and figure out what I want to do in the future. Until then, I planned on staying back home since I didn't want to waste money renting an apartment for myself. However, my mother had her boyfriend move in with us a couple of months ago, and even though I was not exactly fine with it, I had to pretend like it was not a big deal because I did not want to hurt my mother or question her feelings for my dad. But I found it quite odd that she had started dating this guy just 6 months after my dad had passed away because I thought it was too soon. I even casually brought it up with my mother, and she told me that she missed my dad, but at some point she would have to move on. The guy she was dating, she had known him since they were in high school. They had drifted apart for a bit when he moved away but had reconnected recently when he had come back. Apparently, he was the one who had been there for her all along even when my dad had been diagnosed, and recently when he had confessed his feelings for her, she decided to go for it because she had really grown to care for him. So, after having dated for 3 months, she had him move in with us so we could bond because they were getting married soon. A couple of weeks ago, they got officially engaged, and after the engagement party, my mother told me that she had to speak to me in private. That was when she told me that once she was married, she would want me to move out since she did not want me to be a part of her. Neither did she want me staying with him anymore because she wanted to start fresh, and both she and her partner agreed that this would be for the best. So, just to be clear, it has been only a year since my dad passed away, and just 6 months after his demise, my mom started seeing this guy. She told me about it after she had been out for a couple of days with him, and 3 months after that, she had him move in with us. I was fine with that because she was trying to move on, and she knew what was best for her. She had also been a good mother to me so far, and when my dad was alive, she had also been a good wife to him, so I had no reason to question her, and I respected her decision even though I did not necessarily agree with it or think it was a good idea. But I thought that I was too young to know anything, so I kept my mouth shut. Now it has been almost 3 months since her boyfriend has been living with us, and 4 weeks ago, a few days after they got engaged, She told me that she wanted me to move out by the time they started the preparation for the wedding, which was going to be in a couple of months, maybe 5 or 6 at most. I think it would be very obvious to anyone with even half a brain that she was rushing things, and it was completely unnecessary. It was also kind of disrespectful to my dad's memory because it had not been that long since he passed away. Anyway, after she told me that she would want me to move out and wouldn't want me to be a part of her new family, I didn't even know what to tell her. So I just asked her why exactly had she made this decision, because as far as I could recall, she had said that she wanted her fiancé to be living with us so we could get to know each other and bond, which would be good for us because eventually she planned on marrying him, and then we would all be living together. And now, all of a sudden, she wanted me to find a place of my own? It just didn't add up. She did not seem inclined to tell me the real reason, but then when I kept insisting that I wanted to know, she told me that her fiancé wasn't exactly comfortable with the idea of me continuing to live with them even after they got married because I would be a constant reminder of her previous relationship. The guy had told her that he had apparently been in love with her ever since they were in high school, but had never been able to work up the courage to ask her out. Then they sort of lost touch when they were in college. Eventually, my mom ended up marrying my dad, and they didn't speak for many years. But he had always resented my father for being able to get to her first, and now that he was finally out of the way, he didn't want me here. She told me that her fiancé didn't even want me to be invited to the wedding because he thought that it was cold and hateful and I did not approve of their relationship. So he wanted me out because he thought that I was against their relationship, and he believed that I would prove to be quite toxic if I was at the wedding or even in their lives. I couldn't even believe that she was entertaining this idea, and she told me that she had tried to fight for me, saying that I was just lost and kind of distant from everyone at this point because I still missed my dad. But her fiancé had made up his mind and had given her an ultimatum. She could either choose my side or she could choose him. And very obviously, she had made her choice, so she was asking me to stay out. She told me that she had talked her fiancé into at least letting me stay until I was able to find a place. But after that, they would require me to leave as soon as the wedding got close. That day was horrible for me because I had a huge fight with my mom. Naturally, I told her that she was a coward and she was incredibly selfish for choosing her fiancé over me. We were shouting at each other. So her fiancé was able to overhear what was going on, and he came to her rescue. He started accusing me of never even trying to give him a chance and creating a very hostile environment for him ever since he had moved in. I don't think that was true. I just didn't go out of my way to speak to him, and I was only polite to him but didn't treat him with any extra love or affection. I think that's pretty normal, so I don't even know why he was expecting that because I had just lost my father. I was obviously still trying to process that, and I was not ready to build a relationship with him as my stepdad so soon. Anyway, he started accusing me of being hostile. I told him that he had no right to say anything at all to me because this was my house and he couldn't kick me out. So then things got much worse, and he told me that he could definitely kick me out because it was my mother's choice not to have me here since I was the face of her past mistakes. That comment made me so mad that I ended up attacking him and scratched his face up real bad. My mother had to separate us, and then she told me that she would call the cops if I did not leave. So I packed some of my things, and I headed over to my grandparents' place. I went to live with my paternal grandparents because my mom's parents live out of state and I'm not very close with them. Once I was there, I explained the entire situation to them, and they decided to take matters into their own hands. They had already known all about my mother trying to move on just 6 months after their son had passed away. But just like me, they had not questioned it either. They had wanted to respect her wishes and let her live her life the way she wanted to because we were sure that my dad's demise was tough on her as well. All of us had wanted to give this relationship a chance, but she had proven that she was not the same person she had been when my dad was still around. Anyway, once I told my grandparents what had happened, they decided to cut off her funds. Apparently, ever since things got too bad with my dad's health, he had to quit his job, and my grandparents were the ones who had been funding everything. My mom works in publishing and has a decent income on her own, but my dad used to be a dentist and quite a well-known one at that. So, the kind of lifestyle that we were used to, my mother couldn't maintain that on her own income. And so my grandparents had been chipping in so that I wouldn't have to make any sacrifices, and I'm incredibly privileged for that. After my father passed away, they continued to support us by sending my mother money even after she started dating somebody else. They were doing all of this because they did not want me to be uncomfortable, and I was still young, so it was my mom taking care of me. So they sent the money to her. They wanted to make sure that she was taken care of because she and my dad had been together for a long time, and my grandparents had genuinely considered her the daughter that they never had. But since I had left home, they decided that they were going to cut off her funds, and that would mean that she would not be able to afford the lavish wedding that she was planning. It was pretty stupid on her part to even kick me out, because if she knew that she had been counting on the money that my grandparents had been sending, then she should have at least waited until the wedding had happened to kick me out. I found out about this because the day that I got kicked out and I told my grandparents everything, they called her up and got into a fight with her. Later on, she messaged me saying that I was the reason she would have to scale her way down, and even her fiancé was upset because he had not known that she had been living off of her in-laws' money so far. He thought that she was able to afford the lifestyle all on her own. And well, let's just say that he had been in for a nasty surprise. But the cherry on top is the fact that nobody knew that even the house that we had been living in was owned and paid for by my grandparents. My dad had never brought it up because he didn't think that it would ever be necessary. But the house had a wedding gift from my grandparents to him. My grandparents had tried to transfer the deed of the house to him, but my dad had declined and said that he wanted my grandparents to retain ownership of the house legally so that if my grandparents ever were in need, they would be able to sell the property in the future. And by then he hoped to be successful enough to move out on such short notice and not care about it. Had he been alive, he definitely would have been able to do so. So I guess he lived up to that. Anyway, for whatever reason, my dad had made sure that my grandparents retained legal ownership of that house, and now my mother was upset because she was getting kicked out of the house herself and didn't have a place to play happy family in. And guess what the best part is? That she's blaming me for all of this as if I'm the one who started it. The only thing that I did was complain to my grandparents because I was the one being wronged, and I don't think it was with an intention to take revenge on her. It was just something that happened because I needed somebody to talk to. She screwed herself over, not me. But anyway, she has been sending me messages about how she had been planning on adopting twins because that's what she had always wanted. And after marriage, she and her fiancé were going to apply. But now they had to rethink everything and come up with a new plan for their life, and it was all because of me. She said that she has been feeling humiliated since she doesn't know when she's going to get married anymore and has no idea where she's even going to live. Instead of being sorry about any of this, she has been blaming me, saying that the least I could have done for her was at least give her some time, like she had done for me. Apparently, she thought that she had fought for me and showed me that she cared, but I didn't do the same for her. She believes that she has been betrayed, and I can't even come up with a single logical train of thought that would explain why my mom thinks that she has been betrayed by me after everything that's happened. She had been trying to call me and stuff, and then I blocked her without any response because I did not think that I owed it to her. After all, she did not think that she owed me an explanation when she decided that she was going to pick her fiancé over me. But blocking her didn't even help. She came up with other ways to contact me and bother me and relentlessly kept sending me messages reminding me that this was all my fault. It got way too much for me to handle, so I decided to respond to her once and for all and end this. She had been using fake accounts and throwaway email addresses on social media to keep sending me messages, so I decided to respond to one of them, and I told her that this was all her fault and she needed to stop blaming me for it. I told her that I was glad that I had ruined her life and now she wasn't sure at what time she was going to get married or where she was going to live or how she was going to adopt the kids that she was planning on adopting with her fiancé. Most of all, I was glad that she wouldn't be able to build a family because, just in case she had forgotten, she had already done that once. She already had a family, and I was a part of it, but look how she treated me. And if this is her idea of how family should be treated, especially your own children, then I guess it's for the best that she isn't going to get the opportunity to adopt kids anymore. I told her that she wasn't fit to be a mother since she had found it more reasonable to choose her fiancé over me for no real reason. Then I even questioned if she had actually been loyal to my dad at all because the speed at which she and her relationship with her fiancé was moving, it was questionable whether she even missed my father. I had tried my best to respect her decisions, but unfortunately, she had proven that she was not worthy of my respect. And now whatever my grandparents were doing, I was going to stand by and let them handle it because I thought it was the right thing to do, and she would have to look for a place and move out because that's exactly what she had been trying to do to me. And this is just karma hitting her back. I sent this message, and after that, the chaos that has followed, I don't even know what to say about it. Right now my family is divided because some people think that I said a lot of things that were not necessary, and some people think that my mother deserved it. The only reason the rest of the family was unable to find out about it was because my mom posted the entire exchange on social media, and I guess it was kind of fair since she did every single detail. She didn't leave out her own faults, but she also made it seem like I was overreacting and that after having raised me, this was not what she deserved. I'm glad that some people are on my side, but the ones who are with my mother on this, I don't know how to feel about that since it's not like these people have always been against me. They are my relatives and even they have adored me, but this time they think that I went too far. So what do you guys think? I did for telling my mother that I don't think she's fit to be a mother after she chose her fiancé over me? Update 1. Hi everyone. Thank you to everyone who has responded to my post and commented on it. It means a lot that you guys took out the time to do so. Anyway, coming to what's going on with my family, I think it's better for me not to pay any mind to the people who are not on my side on this one because I did whatever I thought was appropriate, and my grandparents think that at this stage, it was necessary for me to speak up because my mom doesn't have the right to go out of her way to make me feel guilty for something that was not even my fault and expect me to take it without a word. I stood up for myself and they thought it was the right thing to do. That's all that matters to me. But that's just my paternal grandparents. My mom's parents are obviously on her side here, and they think that I should apologize to her and try to make it all right with her because they think that I had been vindictive and cruel. So I did the only reasonable thing, I blocked them as well, and I'm going to make sure that they are not able to contact me after this since if they can't even see their own daughter's faults, I don't think they have any business commenting on mine. It's been a while since I left home, and my grandparents have already stopped sending her money since there was no formal arrangement. They were just doing it out of the kindness of their heart, and the only thing that's left to do is evict them so I can have the house to myself again. My grandparents have already spoken to their lawyers and have the eviction notice prepared, so my mom is going to be served in a couple of days. Some of you had been asking if my mother had any idea that the house did not actually belong to my father and that it belongs to my grandparents, and well, I don't really know. I don't think she knew because otherwise she might have gotten him to transfer the property to her. My grandparents handled the property tax, but my dad paid the money, so even if she had been living in that house for a really long time, it didn't matter because she didn't have anything to do with it legally. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to having her evicted, so I can have the house to myself again, because I feel like she deserves to be taught a lesson. Dealing with my emotions had been extremely difficult for me for the past year ever since my father passed away, and she knew that. She had seen me at my lowest, and she knew how much I missed him. But still, she went out of her way to make me miserable and chose her fiancé over me, her only child. Also, about her fiancé, I don't even know what's wrong with that guy. I think I had complained about this in my original post as well, but well, I hate him, so I'm going to complain about it again. I don't know why exactly he just assumed that I did not like him. I was just indifferent to him, and it was not even anything personal. It was just because I was grieving the loss of my father. God forbid he doesn't receive attention from his future stepdaughter for 1 second. And on top of that, he had the audacity to call me a reminder of my mom's past mistakes. I think he has to be the biggest mistake my mom has ever made. I can't imagine anybody being creepy enough to wait for a woman's husband to pass away so he can hit on her, and I can't believe my mother was stupid enough to fall for it. So I don't feel bad for her at all anymore, and I think that she totally deserves it, and anyone who is on her side here can take a hike and leave me alone forever. I'm going to keep track of who's siding with her right now so that in the future, I never interact with these people ever again. It might seem petty and small for me to do so, but I don't even care. This is a big deal for me. The only good thing that has come out of this is that she has stopped sending me messages after I responded to her, so I think it was worth it. She still has that post though, which honestly doesn't even matter to me because I told my relatives not to keep sending it to me and that I didn't care about it at all. She can play the victim all that she wants, it's not going to change the reality, and it's definitely not going to change the fact that in a few days she's going to be served with an eviction notice and then she will have to leave her house, and I personally can't wait for that to happen. Update 2. It happened, and I haven't ever been happier. I feel like a bad person for being so happy right now, but I don't care. My mom got served with the eviction notice today and had a total mental breakdown on social media. After she was served, she went live on Facebook, and a bunch of my relatives witnessed her completely breaking down. She was sobbing like crazy, and I would have felt bad for her if she hadn't actually taken the time to set up the camera and then act dramatic for her audience. She started talking about how she had raised me and my father would have been so disappointed in me today, as if I couldn't say the same thing for her. My mom was acting as if I had an issue with the fact that she was dating again and was trying to move on, which was not even the case. I had an issue with the fact that she was trying to kick me out of the house and make me seem like the bad guy for simply standing up for myself. I didn't even care that she had told me about not being invited to the wedding, but I had an issue with the fact that her fiancé thought that I was toxic and wanted me out of the house that I had lived in with my father. If he had a problem with me, he could leave, and that's the energy that my mother should have had as well, but unfortunately, she thought that giving me time to move out was the more reasonable thing to do here. She had been crying on the floor and beating the floor with her fists, you know how people act in films, and she thought that people were going to sympathize with her. And some people were doing that, but most people were just calling her out on her BS because they knew the entire story. A lot of my relatives who were on my side had screen recorded the entire thing and sent it to me, and I have to say it's pathetic how she had been acting. I had already been quite embarrassed of how she had been acting for the past couple of weeks, but now I'm downright ashamed of it. I hate the fact that I'm related to her, and I'm always going to be known as her daughter because this is just weird and psychotic. Anyway, I'm just happy that even after breaking down on social media and trying to play the victim so badly, it didn't matter because she is still going to have to vacate the house and be gone by the end of the month. On a more serious note, I hope she sees therapy because it's very obvious to me now that she needs intensive care for her declining mental health, since I literally can't imagine anybody who is normal acting like this. Update 3. Hi guys, so my mother has moved out officially, and the house is empty now so I can move in a couple of days, but I'm going to wait it out. I really enjoyed living with my grandparents, and I don't want to give up on that so soon, so I'm going to be staying with them for a few more weeks or maybe even months. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, I have more news about my mother. So apparently she and her fiancé have called off their engagement and have separated. They did not mention any reasons for it on social media, but I have heard from a couple of relatives that she has been telling people that it's because he couldn't handle the fact that she was acting so unstable. I mean, after her recent behavior, I wouldn't blame anybody for leaving her because it has been pretty psychotic. But she has been justifying it all, claiming that it's been happening because she has been having a really tough time coping with her emotions after my father passed away. And even if I do believe that it just explains her actions, it doesn't excuse them. She has been telling the relatives who had been on her side through this entire thing about what she has been going through, and I really think she needs to reevaluate who she's supposed to have about these things because the gossip is spreading and I'm pretty sure that the ones she has chosen to trust are the ones who are talking about her behind her back. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten to know about all of these things. Anyway, that's her choice. Now, to be honest, everything said and done, I do feel kind of bad for her. She is my mother, and both of us lost somebody incredibly important to us last year. I don't think my dad would have liked to see us like this, but I can't help it. I really wanted to accept her and make our relationship work even though she was doing things that I did not approve of, but I don't think she valued the fact that I was trying my very, very best to accept her and her fiancé, and she decided to go out of her way to change her life according to her partner. She should have stood her ground and stood up for me instead, and maybe we would be having a nice life now. Instead, she put everything at risk so she could have a new family and a new life and put me in the past. That backfired on her, and now she doesn't have a daughter, she doesn't have a fiancé, and she doesn't even have her own home because from what I've heard, she has had to move into a really tiny apartment, which is all she could find on such short notice. I feel bad for her, but at the same time, she brought this on herself. I just hope that at some point in the future she comes to her senses and apologizes, but even if it doesn't happen, I'm fine with it because I have my grandparents by my side and I'm going to work hard for my future just like my father wanted me to. Now on to the next story. Story 9. My wife, 30F, and I, 27F, recently closed on our dream home, and it has the family torn. Years ago, my grandparents owned the family home, but when they died unexpectedly with a lot of medical debt and expenses, our family had to sell their house. It was heartbreaking and sad, and I decided as a small child that one day I would buy the house back. I shared those dreams with my sister. I met my wife when I was 18, and she was 19. Her parents owned a small rental that they allowed her to live in rent-free, just paying for the expenses. She invited me to live with her a year into our relationship, and we got married a year after that. I told her about my dreams of owning my grandparents' house, and she fully supported me. We began putting large amounts of money back for a down payment in the hopes that the house wouldn't go on the market before we could afford it. Because we didn't pay rent and both had good jobs for our ages in the economy we lived in, we were able to put back a very, very large sum of money. My in-laws also offered us a sum of $75,000 for the down payment, and in total we put back about $185,000. About 20 years after my grandparents passed away, their house finally went back on the market at a massive price. The house itself is huge with 6 bedrooms, a large lakefront estate, and several features including a pool and small guest house. We knew that this house would have a huge price tag, and we skimped and budgeted for 9 years to afford my dream house. My sister was also house shopping at this time, but with a much smaller budget. Her and her husband have children, student debt, and rented for the past several years and were not able to put back money in the same way my wife and I were. When our grandparents' house went on the market, I sent the link to my sister and said that we were finally getting our grandparents' home back in the family. She was very excited and said as much, and that was that. My wife and I moved forward, visiting with the owners and real estate agents, having it inspected, and made an offer. They accepted, and we were absolutely over the moon. Throughout this whole process, my sister kept saying how excited she was to have the house back in the family, and how nice it will be for her children to know this house and grow up in it like her and I did. Our grandparents' house was the location of every birthday, holiday gathering, and reunion, and my wife and I planned on making it that way again, which was why what my sister said didn't raise any red flags. Weird that she'd phrase it that way, but not concerning. We had a barbecue at my parents' house to celebrate the final closing of our house. During the dinner, my mother-in-law offered to kennel our dogs while we were in the stages of moving to keep things easier and them safe, and that was when my sister piped up. She asked why our dogs needed to be watched when the real issue was her kids. My wife asked what she meant, and she said that her kids will need more supervision than our dogs, and that she was confused as to why we'd be so busy that our dogs needed watching. I told her I was the one confused. I didn't know she was helping us move, and that if her kids couldn't reliably be left to their own devices, then she absolutely did not need to help us pack. My sister proceeded to ask why my wife and I would be packing. I told her the obvious. We just closed on a house. For length reasons, I'll leave out a lot of the back and forth, but here's the gist of it. My sister had it in her head that we were buying the house to either A, rent to own it out to her family, or B, transfer the title to her name and have her pay us back in time. Yes, that is literally what she was thinking, despite us never discussing anything like that once. When I told her that was not happening, my sister threw a fit. She was pissed because this was her dream, too, and that it wasn't fair that only one of us could live it. That since she had children, they deserved to grow up in the family home, and what did my wife and I even need all that space for? My wife told her that it isn't the family home anymore. It wasn't left in a will. We purchased it, and now it is our home, and we decide what we will do with it. My sister told my wife to shut up and that she had no say in this family discussion. I informed my sister that if she spoke to my wife that way again, we would not be having any kind of contact with her anymore. That she doesn't get to assume we're giving her a house and then throw a hissy fit when she's put in her place. And we left. My in-laws spoke to us on the matter a few times, but all told us we were in the right and that my sister was very out of line. I assumed everyone would agree, but if they did, I wouldn't be on this thread. I got texts and voicemails from my parents saying that we were out of line, threatening my sister. They told me they were disappointed in me for taking my sister's dream from her, and that I don't have kids, so I can't understand or want to provide them with a good home and childhood like she had. That it's only fair we set up a way to give her the house and that we could afford to find something else. Even my more distant relatives have said that it was cruel of us to take that from her. I'm honestly super shocked and taken aback. Entitled people thinking they should get their relatives' houses, but I never expected to live it. This feels surreal, and I hate that we're starting this new chapter out on such a sour note. Edit. While this blew up in such a short amount of time, thank you for your support. If this continues to be interesting and not blow over, I'll definitely update. Yes, this unfortunately is a real situation, and in case anyone is curious, yes, the house is big and expensive, but it's severely outdated, which is why the size and features don't exactly match the price in today's housing market. Like, I don't think any owners after my grandparents renovated a single thing. Also, I am a woman LOL. Update 1. I can't read and respond to all of these comments, but thank you. I will continue to update, but since posting yesterday morning, not much had happened. I will add a bit more of what's happened since the barbecue. I haven't responded to any messages my family have left. I honestly didn't think this was that big a deal, but after scrolling through the comments for a while with my wife, we're both taking this much more seriously. A security system isn't an option at this moment. The house needs too much work at this moment to have cameras and such set up. They'd be in the way of everything else being done. We'd have to have them removed for several of the things we need done, and we don't even have internet access at the property at this moment. I will be scheduling meetings with some companies to start coming out and working on the property before we get to the cosmetics. However, we do have someone coming out to change the locks on Thursday. We won't be moving into the house for a bit since it needs so much work before we're comfortable. I've had a few people suggest the story is fake because the price of the house doesn't match the features. The house needs a lot of work. It hasn't been updated or worked on in years, and the price reflects that. Also, we are lucky to live in a state where property values haven't skyrocketed too bad. Comments where Op replied. Comment 1. How much did the house cost if you put down almost $200,000 as a down payment? NTA, but your first mistake was sharing a listing with your sister. OP. The house was a little over $800,000, but the down payment itself was only about $100,000. The rest was used for closing costs, moving costs, and renovations/updates. It had a seriously dangerous deck that looked like it had been done by the homeowners that needs completely torn down and redone. OP responds on getting a will in place regarding the house in case if she and her wife passes on that way, her family cannot fight over the legal rights of the property. Honestly, I never even thought of this. I've always assumed wills and trusts were enough, but this is a scary possibility. Thank you, and I will be strongly considering this. Update 2. July 30th, 2024. Thank you to everyone for being so supportive and offering advice. To those who suggested getting a security system in place, we are going to do that, but the house is not in a place where a security system can be installed for the time being. We're looking into getting some battery-powered trail cameras as suggested by one Redditor. I can't find your comment in the sea anymore, but you know who you are. We don't have to worry about internet access, and they won't be in the way of renovations. We are restoring the house back to its original glory, pre-carpeted bedrooms and mismatched wallpaper. Besides fixing broken stuff and upgrading old appliances, we'll be having the floors redone, paint, wallpaper, new windows, and opening up some walls that shouldn't be there. For the next 2 weeks, my wife and I will be meeting with people coming out to work on electricity, plumbing, and a few other things, and we do have a consultation with a home security company. Along with cameras, we're looking to get alarms and door codes and set up an access gate around the property, one of those that needs either a passcode or to be let in by someone in the house. We've already made an appointment to have the locks changed and aren't concerned about my family trying to squat there. My in-laws have allowed us to park their camper trailer on the property while work is being done, not only for peace of mind but to avoid commuting back and forth multiple times daily. For the actual update, I was hesitant to post this update since it's so soon after my original post, but I guess enough has happened for it to be useful information. The events of the barbecue took place last week, but I only got around to writing it all out yesterday. I sent a message to my parents and siblings yesterday evening asking to meet up to talk things through and try and figure out what's wrong and what exactly the hell is happening. Earlier today, my wife and I met my parents and my brother's family at his house. Before my sister arrived, I let them know that if they tried to interrupt or control the conversation, we would leave. I told them that I never once even suggested my sister would be allowed to rent out the house or buy it from us, that I didn't know where she got the idea from, and showed them the text strings where I first sent her the listing and every conversation where I updated her on the progress. My mom asked to see the rest of the conversations about the house, and I told her there were none. She informed me that my sister told them all that we had made an agreement that my wife and I would purchase it and then rent it out to my sister's family until they'd paid enough to buy it, that we would live in the guest house and they'd get the main house. She told them that we had went back on our deal and had absolutely shattered her dreams of raising her kids in the house she grew up in. We gave our side, and it wasn't difficult at all to convince my parents that we were telling the truth, with the lack of evidence on my sister's part and absolutely no legal documentation. My parents didn't even attempt to try and back up what she told them. My parents were very apologetic and let us know that they never would have said those things to us had they known the truth and that they supported us 100%. My brother was supportive of us as well, but he was never one of the people harassing us over this, so his reaction is less important. Around then, my sister and her husband showed up. My brother-in-law is a doormat and will give my sister whatever she wants, so I wasn't expecting much from him. I asked her to produce any of the necessary evidence to prove that I told her we'd rent the house out to her, that her lie was ill-conceived and that she better have a good explanation. She attempted to suggest that I had deleted the conversation, but when she couldn't produce said messages either, her story fell apart. She started crying, saying it wasn't fair that we got everything handed to us, and that we didn't need a house this big, and that we were rubbing our wealth in her face. So, to my understanding, she thought she could trick everyone into bullying us into renting our house out to her, I guess. Like some kind of nut-in-the-head Scooby-Doo villain. Instead of using a ghost to scare us away, she's using a fake rental agreement that she didn't even attempt to make look or sound legit. We let her know that she had a lot of apologizing to do before we'd consider having a relationship with her moving forward, and that she wouldn't be welcome in our home for a long time. At the moment, our relationship with my parents is rocky at best, for obvious reasons. They let us know that they're here to support us if we need moving assistance or help with renovations, but it'll take some good, hard thinking to decide if we're okay with that. We will not be giving anyone in my family a spare key, but my wife's parents will receive one for emergencies. The house won't be in a state to host guests for a bit, so we are choosing to cross the "can my family be trusted at our home?" bridge when we come to it. To answer some common questions I've noticed in the comments. My sister obviously has some screws loose, but my parents don't really coddle her. She's what you can consider the golden child and the baby, but honestly, most of her antics up until this point were just one-upping achievements during our childhood or seeking more attention from our parents. She's dramatic, entitled, and a little selfish, but has never displayed this level of crazy before. Yes, we will get a security system, but not for a bit. No, my family will not be trusted with a key. Yes, I am a woman. I know, it's crazy how two women can be married, lol. My wife and I do not have kids and will not have them in the future. My sister has done some odd things, but nothing as absolutely absurd as this. We will be meeting with an estate planner to put everything into writing. We plan on leaving the property to my sister-in-law and her kids with my mother-in-law as the executive of our estate for the time being. My sister and her family rent a small house in town. They aren't struggling per se. They each are college-educated with good jobs, but children are expensive, and then adding in student debt and $2,000 a month in rent, and you aren't exactly living it up. Also, there's a surprising amount of people mad at my wife and I for being rich. We are not wealthy. My in-laws are comfortable and are generous enough to allow us to occupy their rental at no charge. They bought a new house decades ago and just didn't sell their previous one, so they allowed my wife to live there. The down payment was my wife's college fund from years ago. Her parents put money in it, but when she decided to go into a trade, they kept the money and saved it specifically for the purpose of a down payment. When we told them that the house was up for sale finally, they offered the college fund they had kept for her. We worked good-paying jobs, but were able to save so much because we didn't have to pay $2,000 a month for housing. We did skimp and save, and we did damn well earn it. We lived below our means and spent years forgoing any kind of luxuries to afford something we wanted. So, yeah, not as drama-filled as a lot of people were expecting or hoping. I don't see this as the end of it, not at all, but for the time being, my wife and I are focusing on dealing with our new house and not my sister. She's blocked on both our phones as of this morning, and I'm not sure when I plan on unblocking her. Comments where Op replied. Comment 1. Leaving it to your sister-in-law is mad. Wait, you're closer to your sister-in-law than your sister? OP. The sister who attempted to trick, bully, and harass her way into taking the house we just bought and turned my entire family against us? And my sister-in-law is my wife's sister. So yes, she's just as close to us as my sister, closer after the stunt my sister just pulled. Comment 2. And I would have gotten away with the house if not for those meddling lesbians. OP. Okay, this one got me. Comment 3. NTA. Your sister is delusional and has made up a narrative in her head that she is owed or entitled to certain privileges. Your parents are crazy for reinforcing that narrative to her. Good on you for taking your wife's side and not standing for the disrespect. Comment 4, NTA. Do not ever give your parents or sister a spare key or the door code. Ever. Now on to the next story. Story 10. Family boycotted my wedding after my fiancé refused to ask my dad's permission to marry me. Now I'm pregnant with their first grandchild, and they're making demands. Hi guys. I've been with my boyfriend, M25, for 3 years. We both just finished school and are finally ready for marriage. He proposed last week and I happily said yes. I could not be happier. I love him, and he is going to be an awesome dad someday. But my BF is very new school and my dad is kind of old school. My dad was beyond mad that my boyfriend did not ask my dad for my hand before proposing. My dad said he was willing to hear my boyfriend's apology if my boyfriend formally asks for my hand at a dinner that my dad said he will pay for at the restaurant of my boyfriend's choosing. My dad feels like he is being very accommodating. He will bring my boyfriend's favorite wine to celebrate. I spoke to my boyfriend last night and he won't budge. He doesn't believe in that tradition. My boyfriend showed me an article online where a Pakistani woman was stoned to death outside a courthouse because she married a man against her family's wishes. This just happened. My boyfriend, who witnessed his father be abusive/possessive with his mom as a child, has always felt strongly that women are not property. He thinks the tradition of asking for her hand is repulsive. His point is that he's met my whole family and gotten to know them. He says they have always known his intentions, and he never made it secret that he was in love with me and wanted to marry me and have children. He feels he has done enough to announce his intentions and all of them seem to approve of him. He says that at this point, he only needs my approval to marry him and nobody else's. So yesterday, my mom told me that my dad, who is not even speaking to me because I won't set my foot down with my boyfriend, is calling the whole family and telling them to not attend my wedding. My mom says that my boyfriend is the one treating me like property by not letting me have a say in his decision to not observe a tradition that my 2 older sisters' husbands observed. I told my mother that I understand where my boyfriend is coming from and that I have decided to do away with the tradition of him asking for my hand. So my mother is obviously mad and said that I should be ready for serious consequences. I asked her what and she would not say, but from talking to my sister, she said that they would blackball us from all family gatherings. My 2 sisters and my mom have told me my boyfriend is being selfish. The wedding is set for August 9th. I'm worried that nobody in my family will attend my wedding. Edit. I'm getting some comments about my boyfriend asking for my parents' blessing instead of permission or hand. I just can't see the difference. There might be one, but I don't see it. Is there a big difference? Comments where OP has replied, OP, thanks for the congrats and comment. I was just thinking as I read some comments here. One comment said that my parents should not have staged the boycott either way. So maybe the boycott signals something more than just my father wanting to be included in some way. I don't know. I'm now worried that the boycott and calling all my relatives signals more controlling issues that my dad has that I never noticed before. My 2 older sisters had no problems with their wedding because they did everything the way my dad liked. So I'm scared now that maybe my boyfriend is right that it's not just a tradition. Downvoted commenter. My dad feels like he is being very accommodating. OP. No, both he and your mother are being controlling, and they are attempting to make you choose between your fiancé and them. Choose your fiancé. Otherwise you're setting a precedent for this type of behavior/interference for the rest of your marriage. OP. This is what I'm afraid of. My fiancé and I don't practice Catholic religion like my family does. So I wonder what will happen when my kids aren't baptized and all that. Update. The wedding went on as planned. My parents stuck to their guns and boycotted. One of my 2 sisters attended and is now happily blacklisted from our family. Nobody else from my entire family showed up, including my 2 brothers. The wedding was a little unconventional. My sister walked my husband down the aisle, and then his sister walked me down the aisle. I wanted this because my sister actually introduced us and helped me get my first date with him. There was no question about who gives away the bride, or even about objections. It was normal other than that. There has been no contact between me and my family other than my one sister. My mother has made it a point to send me a card every time that they have a family gathering for holidays or birthdays at their house to let me know that my father says I'm not invited. I get one almost every month. I don't even read them anymore. I just toss them. I don't know why they keep sending them, because I've made no effort to contact them and I live over 3 hours away, so it's not like I will run into them by accident. The reason I came back to post this here is because some people here made a prediction that came true, that they would come crawling back when we had children. I am now expecting our first child, a girl. Smiley face. She will be the first grandchild for my parents. My parents found out about the pregnancy a few months ago through a family friend. They didn't waste any time in making demands, not requests, demands. My boyfriend and I are not religious, but I had a Catholic upbringing. I don't practice at all by choice. My mother called me back in April telling me that my father wanted our daughter's middle name to be his mother's first name. I said no. My father was listening and on speaker, so I went ahead and told them that they were officially uninvited from all birthdays, graduations, and any other important dates in her life. My father called me half an hour later crying and begging me to come stay with them for the birth so my mother could care for me. I said no. He also said that he had already made arrangements for his priest to baptize her at his church, but that I needed to agree to naming her after his mother if I wanted this to happen. He said he'd already planned a big celebration for the birth and the baptism that he was paying for. I said no to all of it. He went from meekly trying to sweet-talk me to raising his voice at me, and I hung up. He called a couple more times to apologize for losing his temper and again begged me to reconsider giving birth at a hospital near them so they could visit us. He denied having any knowledge of my mother sending me cards to uninvite us to any family functions, and even said that he specifically asked her to invite us, but he was told I declined every time. He lets my mom do the dirty work so he can later hide behind her and deny he had any knowledge. He's done this since I was a little girl. He does this every time he wants to drop the hammer on somebody but be the good cop also. He'll never change. He denied having any knowledge of why anybody in the family missed my wedding. I told him our daughter would not be baptized or Catholic at all. No offense to Catholics. I told him he was too manipulative and controlling, and I didn't want my daughter exposed to that. He's too toxic and just venomous. Coincidentally, the day and for several days after that phone call, I got tons of calls and emails from my brothers, their wives, my sister, and all my aunts. They all wanted to apologize for missing my wedding, and all had specific excuses and wanted to make plans to be there for my daughter's birth. I banned them all from her life until she's old enough to decide for herself to let them in. My husband was a little surprised and not sure about banning everybody forever. He's more leaning towards supervised visits if they want to drive to us. My dad has been calling him like crazy, but we are a united front. My husband is deferring to me but giving me ideas as to how I can give a little if I decide to. But with my family, there's no giving a little. They want it all. For now, they're all banned. I will reconsider when the youngest of our children turns 18. Smiley face. For now, my dad will have to settle for sucking up to my husband while I stick to my guns. Unlike him, I don't mind owning my decisions, even if it means I'm the bad cop. I'm not ready to give up a relatively drama-free, stress-free life to allow my dad and all his sheep back into our lives. Comments where OP has replied, downvoted commenter. He should have just done such a small task and asked like to make peace. Gez, really pushing your family away for such a stupid reason on their side and yours. OP. But that's the thing. After that one small task, they would want to name my daughter another small task. Then they would ask I go have the baby near them, another small task. Then have her baptized by their priest. Then they pick her school. Then they make life decisions for her like they tried with me and my siblings. All small tasks. OP replying to a downvoted comment that things have gone too far and to make amends for their daughter. I guess I would tell you that not everything fits in the oversimplification in your comment. My daughter will be better off without a full family of manipulative, controlling, and abusive people, or people who condone such behavior. After years of abuse, I was glad my husband decided my dad's demand that he ask permission to marry me was too antiquated. The original conflict that caused this rift was years of abuse and manipulation. I chose to burn bridges that needed to go. Otherwise, I would never be free to make my own decisions about my own life without consulting with my dad at every turn. Now on to the next story. Story 11. Ex dumped me because I couldn't give her a luxury lifestyle, then married a rich guy who turned out to be abusive. She started calling me daily for help. My friends think I'm an a-hole for blocking my ex who is married because she keeps calling and messaging me. I wanted to ask if what I'm doing is right or if I should keep in touch with her. I dated Lisa for 4 years, and we broke up 2 years ago. Lisa told me she didn't see a future with me and wanted to call things off. There were many reasons, and I knew it was coming. Lisa came from a wealthy family, and we met in college. Our relationship was great during the college years. However, after we graduated and got jobs, it became clear to her that I would never be able to provide the lifestyle she was used to. She hated the small apartment we rented because I wanted to pay off my student loan quickly, and she resented that I couldn't afford to take her on nice vacations. It sucked, but I couldn't blame her. I loved Lisa deeply, but I also knew she deserved the life she wanted. After we broke up, we still had lingering feelings and stayed friends for a few months. We had mutual friends and would meet regularly. I never hated Lisa. In fact, I cherished the memories of the 4 years we were together. But I was also acutely aware that we came from different worlds and that she shouldn't have to settle because of me. Still, it was hard to let go completely, and sometimes I wondered if I'd ever truly get over her. We drifted apart after Lisa started dating a family friend. I met him a few times at parties. He knew Lisa and I had dated, and though he was polite, I started avoiding her and focused on work. Eventually, I moved to another city and lost touch with Lisa. I heard from mutual friends that she got married 6 months ago. I wasn't invited to the wedding, but I was happy for her. I also dated someone briefly last year, but right now my career is my main focus. That's what I need to believe. 3 weeks ago, out of the blue, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Lisa. She started with small talk, and we caught up on each other's lives. She told me about the new house she and her husband had just bought and how busy she'd been. I told her about my work and my new life. It was nice, like catching up with an old friend. She gave me her new number, and the call lasted about 20 minutes. Although I found it odd, I figured she might have thought about me and decided to reach out. The next day, she messaged me and sent a few photos of her new house. I complimented her on them. 2 days later, she called me again, saying she was driving and thought about chatting. We talked about my new city, my new friends, and even gossiped about our old mutual friends. Then she started sending me photos from a recent party where they all met up. Over the next 2 weeks, Lisa began calling me almost every day. I ignored most of her calls, but she always said she had free time and wanted to talk. She started sending me TikToks, memes, and messages, initiating conversations all the time. At first, I brushed it off, thinking she was just being friendly, but it felt wrong. Lisa is married, and I shouldn't be talking to her so frequently. The more she reached out, the more unsettled I became. Was she unhappy in her marriage? Was she just lonely? Or was I reading too much into it? Last Friday, I finally messaged her saying that it felt inappropriate for us to talk so often given that she's married now. She replied almost immediately, saying there's nothing wrong with us being good friends like before. I didn't want to continue, so I told her we needed to stop talking for a while because I needed to focus on work. After that, I blocked her number. She called our mutual friend, Jess, crying about how I was rude and blocked her. Jess told our other friends, and some of them called me, saying I was being unreasonable to treat Lisa that way and cut her off. I don't understand how no one sees that it's wrong for Lisa to call her ex when she's happily married after more than a year of no contact. It doesn't make sense, but maybe I'm the one who's missing something. Am I being unreasonable with Lisa? Or was it right for me to block her for both our sakes? And if I'm right, why do I still feel so conflicted? Update. October 10th, 2024. I had posted a month and a half ago regarding going no contact with my ex-girlfriend, Lisa, after she tried to rekindle our friendship. Lisa married her husband, Jason, 6 months ago, and I wanted to respect their marriage and blocked her after I felt we were crossing a line. My friend was very critical of me because I was ignoring her, and most of you agreed that I did the right thing. Things have been really crazy since then, and many of you asked for an update. I wanted to respect Lisa's privacy, but as things settle down, I am again not sure if I'm doing the right thing and need advice on my situation. Sorry for the long post, but too many things have happened, and I wanted to get this off my chest. After I blocked Lisa, she called my friend, Jess, and wanted to talk to me one last time. I initially declined but finally caved in and told her that it would be the last time we would talk. Lisa called me on Saturday morning and told me that she wanted to talk to me because she needed help and does not know if she can trust anyone. She sounded awful, and I had to calm her down before she told me what was going on. Lisa told me that after we broke up, she met her husband, Jason, within a few months. Jason asked her out for a date in front of her mom, and her mom insisted that she at least give Jason a chance. Jason was a charmer, and they quickly became official. Jason was everything I was not. He came from a wealthy family and had everything figured out. He took her on all the vacations I could never afford, and Lisa loved this life where she does not have to worry about things like loans and money when she was with me. They had a grand wedding, but Lisa told me that things quickly started going south. One night she was hanging out with Jason's friends, and one of his college friends started flirting with her and touched her inappropriately. Lisa was shocked and told Jason immediately. Jason was drunk and told Lisa to lighten up and enjoy the party, and did not confront the friend. As months went by, Lisa found proof that Jason and his friends were doing drugs, and Jason had slept with most of his friends' wives, and it was a common thing in their friend group. She suspects it happened during the time they were dating and also a few times after they were married. She confronted Jason, but he just got mad at her and told her that she is being too uptight. Things got messy, and Lisa told me that there were some instances of physical abuse, though she did not go into too many details. Lisa wanted to leave Jason and told her mom about it. However, her mom told her that it is too early in their marriage and instead, Lisa should work harder to make Jason happy so that he does not need to look at other women. Lisa never told any of our mutual friends about this because they all love Jason, mostly because he paid for all the parties, restaurants, etc., and Lisa just felt very lonely and helpless. That is when she got a burner phone and started messaging me on it. She apologized to me for getting me involved in her mess but asked me if I can buy her a ticket to my city so that she can get far away from Jason and everyone and figure out what to do next. She could not buy the tickets because Jason had access to all her cards and accounts, and she could not trust any of her friends back home because Jason might know about it. I was really angry with the whole situation and agreed to help her. I got the tickets immediately and did not email her any details. I only told her the confirmation numbers. She packed and reached the airport. She flew to my city and is staying in my guest room. As expected, hell broke loose as soon as she called her parents to tell them that she has left Jason and is with me. She told them and our friends why she did what she did. However, everyone just thought that we had an affair and she left Jason for me. Jason was really angry and demanded her to come home where they are. His parents called her to plead with her to come back and talk about things calmly. Her dad refused to talk to her while her mom flew to my city, and we all met and she told her what happened. Her mom was more worried about their reputation than what Lisa went through in the last few months. It was just sickening. Lisa is looking for lawyers to file for a divorce and has refused to talk to Jason since she came here. Jason has not made an attempt to visit her and initially sent her a lot of threatening messages. I feel he was advised not to send any more incriminating messages to her, and the messages from him suddenly stopped, and there is radio silence. Lisa is currently living with me for the last month. She has offered to pay me rent, but I have told her to just save up for any legal fees as it seems her parents might cut her off. Many of our mutual friends still refuse to believe what Jason did, and some feel we are having an affair. Many of them have completely stopped talking to Lisa and me and even removed us from their socials. Lisa looks like an empty shell of herself. She was the most kind, fun person when we were together. Even though she keeps a brave face, she just bursts into tears randomly. I feel she has still not told me the whole story on what Jason did to her, but I'm just going to be a good friend and give her the space she needs. I honestly am not sure how to feel. Everything happened so suddenly. I never had a time to react and think if what I am doing is right. I don't know how I got in a situation where my married ex is now living with me. I cannot kick her out and I want to be there to support her in such a horrible time. However, a part of me also does not know if what I am doing is right, and as she is still a married woman, and I do not want to be labeled as a home wrecker or a cheater. Any advice would be appreciated. Edit. Just wanted to add some context since many of you are asking about it in the comments. Lisa left her main phone home when she left since her husband can track her phone. He was already paranoid that Lisa would leave him and was tracking all accounts and Lisa's whereabouts. She did not want to let anyone know she was at my place. However, I insisted that she at least call and tell her parents that she was safe, or else they would have thought she disappeared and might have gone to the cops to file a missing person report. Jess did not help her because Lisa did not tell Jess or any of our friends about the abuse. All Lisa told me was that she did not trust any of our friends right now. I am still not sure why and what happened there. However, most of our friends have sided with Jason, and he is spreading a false narrative that Lisa married him for money and waited for 6 months exactly so that she is eligible for a significant alimony based on their prenup. Everyone suspects that we, Lisa and I, planned this whole charade for Jason's money. Lisa left and came to me because she wanted to put as much physical distance between Jason and her before she told him that she was leaving him. And, of course, Lisa and I are not getting back together. I understand the vulnerable position she is in, and I just want to make sure she is safe. Finally, what are my future plans? I am taking one day at a time. I luckily have a very well-paying job now and do not have to worry about financially supporting her for a short time. However, I do understand Lisa cannot live with me forever, and we need to figure out something as soon as things settle down. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1: Wayo, what a wild ride. Although it seems like you made the right decision in blocking her at first, I'm happy you were able to intervene and support her during her difficult time. It's terrible when people put their reputation before the welfare of others. I'm sending Lisa my best wishes and hoping that everything turns out well for her in the end. OP. It is just crazy to see Lisa go through so much in the last few months, and no one is standing in her corner. I also hope she finds strength. Comment 2. She should not be living with you. You are not her savior. Maybe what she's telling you is true, and maybe it's exaggerated to gain your sympathy. She needs to end her marital relationship and deal with her baggage from that before jumping back in with you. All of the reasons she threw you over for her husband still exist. She is still married, period. She can go live with her parents. If he has money and she doesn't, it could be a long, messy divorce. Step back and let her deal with her crap. Now on to the next story. Story 12. My ex's new wife asked my daughter to call her mom. When I talked to my daughter, I found out a heartbreaking secret that changed everything. I, 27F, and my ex, 26M. We have a 6-year-old daughter together. Things weren't working for us, so we broke up last year and decided to co-parent. We both have custody. He got married a few months back. I don't have any hard feelings or anything for him or his wife. He is a great father, but his wife, she's going around saying not only she became a wife, but she got a bonus daughter too. Last week, my daughter was with her father, and I saw his WhatsApp status. A video. She was asking my daughter to call her mom, and saying how she just looks like her, how people think she is her birth mother. Without a second thought, I called my daughter's father. I was mad. I had a fight with him and asked him to drop my daughter back to me, and I don't regret it. But everyone is saying I'm overreacting. Okay, maybe I am, but I can't see my daughter calling someone else her mom. Edit 1. She and my daughter don't look alike. She was asking my daughter to call her mom when my child wasn't comfortable. I don't hate her and I don't wish my child to hate her, either. I wish them to have a friendly relation where they can trust each other and be comfortable in each other's presence. Edit 2. Thank you, everyone, for your response. It means a lot, genuinely. I appreciate it. I had a talk with my daughter. Once I have a talk with my daughter's father, I will update you guys. Now for some comments. Comment 1. Bonus daughter is fine. Asking her to call her mom isn't. Help your daughter find a couple of unique nicknames for her stepmother that no one else uses. Comment 2. She's insane if she thinks that's even remotely appropriate. I have a stepson and couldn't even imagine asking him to call me mom. Especially when his mom is, a wonderful and involved mom. My husband wouldn't stand for it either because we all have a good relationship, and even though they didn't work out, He still has respect for her as his son's mother. Update. August 13th, 2024, I made a post recently about how my ex's new wife asked my daughter to call her mom. First of all, I'm genuinely thankful to you guys. I thought I was overreacting and was going to leave the matter without doing anything. I had a talk with my 6-year-old and I'm shaking. My daughter thought I was going to abandon her. Can you believe? I was dumbstruck. I felt like I have lost everything in my life. My lovely daughter, light of my life. She thinks I'm going to leave her. I asked her why she thinks like that, but she was adamant on not telling me. After luring her, I came to know her stepmother told her that when I will get a new husband, I will leave her and make a new family. That woman. She even said it's only her father who will be with her till the end. Is she insane? I told my daughter that I don't have any plans of getting married again, and even if there's something like that, I would never leave her. She's going to always be my daughter. Truthfully speaking, my daughter still is hesitant. She still thinks I will leave her. I've taken a week off, and me and my daughter, we are spending it together with my parents. After the little vacation, I'm getting a counselor for her. I had a talk with my lawyer. He said we got evidence and everything. He can help me get full custody of my child. I've no intention of dragging my ex to court again, but if there's another incident like this, I won't hesitate. After this, I had to talk to my ex alone. I told him everything about how our daughter feels, how his wife doesn't know her boundaries, how he would feel if I asked my daughter to call a random man dad. He said he had no idea things would turn like this. He only left them alone with a purpose to bond. I have a feeling he's lying. I told him clearly that I won't let the woman anywhere near my daughter, and if he is against it, we can just go to court. For now, we have decided that he can meet our daughter at his parents' house, and after some time, if my daughter agrees, he can take my daughter to his home. It's his responsibility to not to let my kid alone with that woman. I had a talk with that woman, too. She just started crying, putting all the blame on me, saying I'm jealous of her having my husband. Why would I be jealous of someone having my ex? I don't have any energy to waste on her petty dramas. About that woman and why she's doing all this, I gave it a lot of thought and only came up with this. Apparently my ex-in-laws are against this wedding, so maybe she wants to get in their good side through my daughter. Or she's crazy. I just want to make things right for my daughter. I even came to know that my child thinks she's the reason for our divorce, and many of you guys said he got married within a year. Maybe he was cheating? Yes, he was cheating. I came to know about it recently, and truthfully speaking, I don't even want to confront him for this. I want to leave him peacefully without much drama in life. Maybe someday I will ask him and get the answers I'm looking for, but right now I just want to focus on myself and my daughter. Again, I am really thankful to you guys. I never thought my daughter would think something like this. If it wasn't you guys, I don't know if I would have ever came to know. Comments. Comment 1. You're not overreacting, you did everything right. Talk to your daughter, talk to your lawyer, spending time with your daughter, setting up therapy, talking to your ex, and working out a plan that protects your daughter against further alienation through her stepmom. Your ex sounds like a jerk in general, but at least he's willing to work with you for now. If his parents are against his new marriage, you might want to make sure the ex-mother-in-law also knows about the situation and the deal you struck with your ex. The only thing I think you could have done better is drive your ex to a vasectomy appointment, because Act 2 of this drama is going to occur when this woman has a child of her own with your ex and turns on your daughter. I had a talk with his parents. They said they don't care about this guy anymore, and they only agreed to let him enter their house because he's going to meet their granddaughter there. Moreover, regarding vasectomy, I don't think I can force him. But I hope they can take responsibility if they have one. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.